What is going on, everybody? It is episode 651 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I am here with my co-host for the day. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. It's Sara, aka, Coffee Lady.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
She's doing
good. You caught
good.
me off guard.
Well, no, what happens is every time we go live, we're having like the most insane discussion right before we go live, and then I have to stop everyone and say, stop, we're going live. And to my left, that's my right.
It's my left.
It's your left, my right. How you doing, Libby?
I'm good, Brett. How are you?
I'm doing very good, and it's going to be a fun one today. We got a hold of you at the last minute because so we were supposed to have Aldo on today from PragerU, and he had something came up. He had to do something, and then his car got broken into the other day. And Mary sent him a message on Twitter that said, "Karma. That's what you get for not coming into the show today."
Oh, boo.
So thank you for being here today.
Sure thing.
And to my left, this time it actually is my left. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. How is everyone doing today?
I think so far everyone is doing good. I didn't have to. So right before we went live, when Sara got here, she goes, "Every time I'm in this chair, you are always scrambling as soon as you go live." Usually it's because I forget the light behind me because I have to move that light to then edit after the show. So normally I set up, I go live, and I see myself, and I'm like, oh crap, the green light isn't there. So then I have to send it to Sara.
Yep.
And then run back and fix the light. I didn't do that today.
No, that didn't happen today.
I think we're off to a fantastic start. It's going to be good. It's good omens for today's show. So we got a lot to talk about today. But before we get started, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already? Do it for Mary, who's over at like Catholic Con or Religious Con or whatever it is. It's a convention for Catholic influencers. So go and send her a message.
Thing?
That's a thing. That's a thing. She's probably a rock star over there.
That's amazing.
So so hit the like button on this video.
How do you influence Catholics? Just go to church.
That's what you say. Yeah.
Yep.
There's other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to
confession.
They have to create content.
Yeah.
They have to create content.
Yeah, I mean, priests are out there creating content every Sunday. They got to deliver like a whole sermon. They got to do rituals.
I feel like
it's Catholic
Catholic priests, because they have to wear all like the clothes, and it's very, very they have certain rules and stuff.
There's so many rules.
It's not like the Baptists where they can just get up and like dance around. Hey,
no,
Jesus.
That's frowned upon
in
for the Catholics.
I grew up as a Catholic, so I had
go.
my first communion and stuff. I didn't get confirmed.
You didn't do the confirmation?
I did not.
I went through with it, and
Yeah.
I was made to. And my stepmother said, "You will go to church every Sunday until you're confirmed, and then you get to decide what to do." And I was like, "All right, fine."
I was almost confirmed, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. My parents were like, we don't.
That was
really
my
want
brother,
to fight
too.
with you. They're like, we don't want.
That was the same thing for me. I got first communion, but not confirmed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So hit the like button on this video. Subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already, please, and thank you. Remember to share the video with your friends, family, loved ones, the people you like, the people you don't like, all of them, because
Your
the best
friends and
way
your friends' family.
Yes, exactly. Because the best way you can help this show grow is to share it with your friends. That way more people will come in here and hang out. It is the best. So thank you.
$20 super chat already.
Which was about to, my next part was going to be, remember that all super chats $20 and over. We will interrupt the discussion. We will read those super chats right then and there. You got that one, Sara?
Yeah, from Corey Anderson. Birdie, Libby, Sara, and Philium. Have a great Friday. It's the wife's B-day, so I will have to listen to her later. Phil, would you risk getting banned from England to piss on Marx's grave?
I think he meant listen to us later. I don't think he meant listen to her later, like his wife. I think he meant listening to us later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Philium. I like Philium also.
My one of my closest friends in the whole world calls me Philium all the time. So
Really?
Yeah. My buddy Rob, he's like family to me, and his whole family's like family to me. But yeah, Philium is the name.
It is something that you're doomed to have happen to you, is that if you come on the show, you will get misnamed in some fashion. Because I think my favorite yesterday was, what did they call her? There was a really good one for Bert and Mary yesterday, but I don't remember what they said for Mary, but it was really, really, really good. But that's what they do. They purposely mispronounce all our names. It's okay, because I gave them crap back and they said there's nothing worse than Brett with one T. It's just, it's not as bad as Brent, but almost as bad as Brent, which, it's a name I don't like. So, guys, what are we going to talk about today? We got a bunch. So, if you guys remember Sound of Freedom, the very, very big movie from Angel Studios that made a splash last year over the 4th of July, well, this year they released Sound of Hope. It's apparently its own series of films. And it is being produced by actress Leticia Wright, and there's a whole controversy going on right now. She was in Black Panther, she plays Shuri, and she has had to distance herself because Angel Studios partnered with Daily Wire to make this film. And of course, anything involving conservatives at all, you have to then distance yourself from in Hollywood because it's the rules. It's the rules there. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about something that came out last week, but I really, really wanted to talk about it, so I thought we'd get into it today, which was the idea now that they passed a law in Illinois that parent influencers will have to pay their kids money if they're going to include their kids in their content.
Good.
Yeah, that's
Very
what
important.
I said. So we're gonna.
Look what happened? Wasn't it Macaulay Culkin and his parents robbed him?
Well, even that is like one of those things where they have since passed laws with actors, like people who are part of the union that protect them. But there is the internet is the Wild West.
Right.
So we'll get into that. We're going to talk about it. Also, I found this very depressing article that says that Gen Z just doesn't really have any faith in the idea of the American dream, which is something I want to talk about because when I think about it, you guys know I watch a lot of old movies and a lot of old television, and one of the consistent themes that I seem to see, at least in things that I watch, is that there was always a certain amount of hope regarding the American dream. The white picket fence, wife and 2 kids. We're going to get into it, but I want to get everybody's perspectives on why it wasn't just millennials either. They said it wasn't just Gen Z either. It was millennials as well. Why there seems to be so little hope these days for faith in the American dream. So if you guys are ready, we can just go ahead and get started. Phil, you ready?
Let's go.
Sarah.
I'm ready.
Libby.
All set.
Everybody's just one day somebody's be like, actually, I need a couple of minutes. Okay. First things first, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't know, there's exactly one movie I'm excited for this summer, and that's Twisters. It's the only
Twisters.
Did you ever see Twister with Bill Paxton? And,
No.
Okay.
Is it a tornado movie?
It's a tornado movie
Nice.
back from the 90s, okay, right? So Twisters is coming out. It stars Glenn Powell, who is probably the heir apparent to Tom Cruise, or at least Tom Cruise is treating him that way. And they had the premiere the other night, and I just thought about this that I saw this morning. Look, I kind of give crap to all activists. Anybody who calls themselves an activist, I'm already side-eyeing you. I think it's lame. I think it's lazy. Slacktivism is far more common than activism these days. I have a soft spot for animal activists because it's like in the age of critical race theory and climate change, it's like nobody really pays attention to the animal activists anymore. Well, PETA activists showed up at the Twisters premiere to ruin it for everyone.
They should. That's their point, is to ruin things for everybody.
So let's watch this video where there's imagine you're trying to watch a movie. You pay, I don't know if they paid money to go into this premiere, but then this person shows up and it's just really hysterical.
Such cruelty and the abuse and the whipping of animals and the even use of state. There's no excuse for animal abuse. There's no
Abuse her.
excuse for animal abuse.
She's got the Prozac eyes if ever I've seen it.
She deserves to be abused.
There's no excuse
Glenn Powell's just like, huh.
for animal abuse.
Were animals abused in the making of Twisters too?
No, so apparently there's a rodeo scene, but this movie was overseen by animal rights activist groups to make sure that no abuse happened on set. So as you can imagine, very little of that is easy to get away with in Hollywood nowadays. You're not getting away with that type of thing. You're going to have. It's why they tend to choose to CGI dogs and cats
Like
now.
intimacy coordinators.
Yes.
You gotta have that.
It's not because they actually care about them. It's because they actually just don't want to get sued. Right? So I love it. I love hearing the people boo the activist. That's how they actually think about you.
That's how most people think of activists.
Exactly.
Like if you're hollering and interrupting someone's day, if you're like trying to mess with people that are trying to do things like get to work and stuff, everyone hates you. Everyone hates your guts.
It was like when Seinfeld was in Australia and somebody heckled him, and it was like this huge auditorium, and Seinfeld says to the heckler, "Yeah, everyone's on your side now."
Yeah.
You know.
When I was in
true.
college, this group of kids blocked the entire freeway for like
That's so
hours.
rude.
Mm-hmm.
Where
And
was
then,
that?
Santa Cruz.
Oh, there you go.
California.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
the belly of the beast.
The thing is, you could be just ruining so much stuff without having any idea. You could possibly end up making it so that someone can't get to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You could be making it so that way people miss things with their kids, they miss things with their family. Like,
Your wife is having a kid, and you're like, could you please get out of the way? I'm trying to see my son or daughter get born.
It's just absolutely so narcissistic because the people that are actually doing the protesting, they're not doing it. It's not about the protest. It's about they need the attention almost all the time. So it's just because there are plenty of other ways to go ahead and help whatever cause you're doing. You could promote legislation. You could petition your representatives. You could do a whole ton of stuff. But when you stand in the middle of the road and you block traffic or do something like that, it's all narcissism, and everybody that gets their day messed up by you should be allowed to smack you. Just line them up, slap, 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 slap.
I will admit to having shut down Second Avenue and the 59th Street Bridge in
For what?
2003
Your activism days?
when I was protesting the Iraq War.
Oh.
And I do think that it was right to protest the Iraq War, but in retrospect, we shouldn't have shut down the 59th Street Bridge.
Yeah.
I was marching out there with like the transit union, but still like
Yeah.
in retrospect, we should have left the non-permitted parts of the city alone.
There you go. A very reasonable take.
Lesson learned,
The
yeah.
opinions of Phil Labonte do not reflect the views of that. Okay, more good news for
Phil
Twisters.
just thinks I should have got hit.
If you like 90s movies, certainly this is something that you haven't seen in a long time. Movie tie-in with food products, okay? So they've got Fritos Flaming Hot and Ranch chips. I just found this right before we went live. I don't know how anybody feels about ranch Fritos. That doesn't actually sound that good to me, but I
do love Fritos. I was at a bar recently and they had some Fritos and I was like, I do need a pack of those Fritos.
There you go. I like the idea of movie tie-in stuff because I still have the Batman Returns McDonald's cups that my family had. Like those are still in storage. You know, the plastic ones that you could get, the collectibles and stuff like that. I have like pretty much all the movie tie-in merchandise that I ever got from stuff growing up because it's collectible and it's cool, even if you put it to use and didn't leave it in the box. So, all right. Big news, like we stopped talking about this a while ago, but I don't know if anybody here likes animated movies or gets out to the theater very much. Certainly we critique movies a lot here, but Inside Out 2 has passed The Incredibles 2 as the highest grossing Pixar movie in history, which is saying something considering the box office this year has been absolutely abysmal. Right? And it's very hard to imagine in a year that's been as bad as this one, certainly with all of the failures that we've seen. But what they talk about here is it says that the film hit $1.25 billion globally, passing Incredibles 2. Now, again, I didn't have time before the show. Inflation probably counts for a good portion of that. Incredibles 2 came out a long time ago. Inflation's killing a lot of things right now. So I would love to see these outlets be a little bit more on the nose about saying like, well, this is what it actually would have made this movie would have made out if it had come out today, right? So, but it's up there with, again, you look at Super Mario Brothers, that just came out the other year. Inflation was already gravitating upwards last year, though I think it's kind of...
I was just looking at inflation numbers this morning because I was working with one of our writers at Post Millennial on fact-checking Biden's press conference last night, and he was saying, you know, core inflation is already way down than it was 3 years ago. So I checked it out, and we're at 3.4 now. 3 years ago, we were at 4.5, but only 9 months before that, we were at 6.6, which was the highest it had been since before 2014.
Yeah.
So we're still really high. And when he came into office, it was 1.4.
Yeah.
Just throwing that fact check out there because it's
a
in my
lot to,
brain,
it's
right?
a lot to think
They
of.
always play with the numbers.
I saw an article.
Yeah, they mess with it. So when he says it's down from 3 years ago,
It's true.
What he means is I jacked it up to insane numbers and have managed to get it back down to still more than double what it was when I came into office.
It's like what retail stores do during Black Friday, right? They hike it up the month before, and then Black Friday they're like, oh, 50% off, but it's still more expensive than it was like a month ago or 2 months
We
ago.
call that
Exactly.
weasel words.
It is weasel
It's
words.
weasel words.
To be fair, like the interest rates down at 1 or 0% or whatever, that's bad for the economy too. The whole reason they were doing that was because the economy actually has been in a precarious situation since essentially 2008, since the housing crisis. They kept printing money because that's what kept the economy going. And every time they tried to raise rates, The stock market went crazy, and like everybody, there were the bad indicators started flashing about the economy. So it's probably good that there's been some. There was a time where there were higher interest rates, but it's not good for the average person, and it's certainly not good for people that are trying to buy houses or whatever.
No. That's been a whole thing.
Yeah, so it is a double-edged sword, but at the same time, to call it a victory, that's just a lie. It's
not a victory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not some win.
It's also why it's impossible for people to want to go out to do things like watch movies nowadays, because you've just got so many expenses at home that you can't really justify. I think when we go to the theaters, I think it's $18 a ticket.
Oh,
out here,
damn.
$16 to $18 a ticket, depending on the.
In New York, it was a ton too.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we're not in New. That's the thing. We're in Maryland. Like that's,
Middle
you
of
think that
nowhere.
would be at least a little bit more affordable, right? So, and if you're one person, that's fine. But if you're a family of people and you're going, that's a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
So, still, we critique Disney a lot here, and I will always have strong critiques of Disney, but I'm not going to pretend like there aren't successes when it does happen. If anything, what it should be done is, we know they won't listen to your critiques, but it should be a roadmap for them to find their way back to success, to try and, copy what you did here. What did you do right here? Copy that again so that you can do it right next time. But they very rarely listen to that.
Did you see the new report out from O'Keefe Media Group about Disney?
OMG reports on Disney are my favorite things on the
They're
internet.
doing
right
like
now.
a whole series now of reports on Disney.
The video of him chasing the guy on like Santa Monica Boulevard is like my favorite thing on the internet right
There's
now.
a $20
There's a $20 one right there from Philip Reed.
Philip Reed, I'm here to say, much like Dr. Wilson, I too am in this episode.
Yes, well, Dr. Wilson was in just about every episode of House, assuming that he's talking about House, which I'm guessing that he is, because everybody knows that. By the way, you can't reset the clock. I didn't mention it. Somebody else mentioned it. Wasn't me. All right. So we talked earlier this week about the release of the trailer for Gladiator 2, a movie that nobody in the history of the world has ever asked for, because the first Gladiator was perfect. It was just fine the way it was. Ridley Scott was a fantastic director. Now, there are all sorts of critiques for this film. It has been ratioed into oblivion, mainly because it decided to use a Jay-Z and Kanye song in a movie about a fictionalized historical epic. But as Twitter does, what they want you to know is that if you do critique this movie, the reason for that is, of course, racism. It's always racism, is it
Didn't
not?
see that coming.
No, you didn't see it coming, right? So here's the thing, and here's why they're wrong about that. There is no bigger fan in the world of Denzel Washington than I, right? And I actually think that Denzel was the best part of the trailer, but you don't get, what's the saying? When all you have is a hammer, every problem is a nail. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds like something my dad would say.
That's the saying,
We have another
right?
$20 one real quick. From Patriarch. Hi, Phil. I'm a huge fan. You were headlining my first metal show with Boo.
Born of Osiris and ABR is probably who's ABR? Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
And ASP, Alshall Parish.
Yes.
On 420 a long time ago in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Tonight I've been Knoxville, Tennessee. Sorry, I've been hooked ever since. Also, this is kind of weird, but you look and talk exactly like my father.
Well, there's probably a connection there.
No. Don't do that to me.
No, I'm saying that the reason why he's drawn to your work is that it's something familiar. I wasn't making other assertions.
You're right.
That wasn't the point.
Thank you very much for coming to check out the show. I appreciate it, and thank you very much for supporting us for so long. Cheers.
Anyways, so is there can anybody think of a movie less like that needed less of a sequel than something like Gladiator, which came out in 2004?
No.
Less.
Less of it, like
I think no movie's safe.
Well, that's the thing,
Like-
right? Like, that's a long time ago. Again, but here's the thing. It's not equally applicable. Like, I'm excited for the remake it's not even a remake. For Twisters has, like, none of the original characters.
But it's Twisters 2.
No, it's not. Here's the thing. It's Twister was the original. Twisters is just the new version they're doing now.
The new
That's
version
got
of
a
the same
vaguely
thing.
similar theme to the
I
other
will
one.
say that I do find that whole thing problematic. Not just Gladiator, but
Yeah.
perhaps Twisters.
Crisis Party!
Glad you had a crisis. There's another $20 in there.
Oh, sweet. All right, from B Wit. Bert, I missed you. Swapping my simping from Chris to you.
Which Chris? I need to know which Chris he's
Probably
talking
Bergman. That's
Chris
the only one on
Bergman?
the show, right?
Could be.
Yeah. I mean, across multiple platforms. Maybe it's Chris Poole over. Maybe it's on
Yeah.
Gamermates. I have no idea. But thank you. I appreciate that. But okay, so you say that a problem in general with the.
I think it's a problem in general. It's time for some new stories, and the new stories can have the same sort of hero themes as the old ancient stories, which are really good, but it's time for some new characters and new ideas. We don't see enough of that. We definitely don't see enough of that. And so, like, when you do get something that's new and interesting, even if it's a retelling of something ancient, that's better than a retelling of something from 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem that I had. So there was actually a New York Post article that was very similar to that this week. It said, like, Barbenheimer is over, and now we're back to a bunch of bland sequels. And the problem I pointed out with it was the 3 movies they used pictures of. They used the pictures from A Quiet Place Day One, the new Bad Boys movie, and I forget what the third one was. But the point was all
Beverly
3...
Hills? Was it Beverly Hills Cop?
No. Okay. So it was all 3 of the movies that they showed were profitable or performed above expectations.
But don't you think American audiences are ready for new ideas? Are ready for
Oh, yeah.
We're like so enmeshed in these old stories, and it's like sort of a nostalgia thing. It's like we want to remember when things were better, perhaps.
Here's the thing.
That our entertainment was better, but like just do better entertainment. Like I was watching this show Invincibles with my son. It's like a Amazon animated show.
Invincible, yeah.
And that was sort of enjoyable. He's been watching, you guys probably know it. You probably know it better than I do. The Boys, which I think is definitely a new kind of. Those are new ideas on that
They
show.
don't do well in the box office,
Yes,
though.
That's
so
been really
that's what's
fun.
odd.
Like watching that show is
Well, no,
so
that-
interesting,
yeah,
and the world building. Like it's a whole universe thing with so many
Very
different
original,
aspects.
too,
It's really
yeah.
original and interesting.
So
yeah,
the problem
he won't
is...
wait. He's like on season 4, and I'm like, can you slow down? He's like, no.
The problem is
I have to just catch
and
it.
I do point this out all the time. I say new ideas are not rare. They're just always on streaming now. So
Oh, that's interesting.
when
Like, that's the platform
when
for
we're talking
newness.
about something that they're going to sink $250 to $300 million into, which they're doing for plenty of streaming shows now. Like
We got another $20
Go
one.
for it.
They're just coming in. Dreamcast night. Hey, Phil. Phil, you have a lot of fans today.
because I put farewell Phil in the.
They're gonna miss you.
Gonna miss you. A friend of mine was in a Megadeth cover band, and he's really good. I know this because I made the mistake of standing next to the speakers, and my ears were ringing for a week. Good times. Have fun on tour, man.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
I almost named my dog Megadeth.
You
It was just
should've.
too long. It
You
was
should
just
have
too
done.
long. Shadow
you
was
could,
good.
You could just call them Mega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mega.
Magadeath. That's what you could.
Yeah, there we
You
go.
actually end up calling it Meg. Meg.
Meg.
But the point is like if you're going to invest that much money into a production, look, the people can complain about sequels all they want, but it seems to have a stronger return on investment most of the time than the new ideas. Look, I loved the movie The Fall Guy that came out this year. Now that was based off a television show from the 80s.
Yeah, that's an old
I
show. That
abhor
was on
anyone.
when I was a kid.
I refuse anyone who tells me, "Oh, that's based off IP." I'm like, nobody going to the movies knows that that's based off anything. Most people don't, right?
I was very young when that was on.
Most new
Well, we're
things
the
that
same
come
age,
out,
We were both very young.
Yeah.
most new things that come out have a harder time gathering an audience because they don't have that built-in name recognition. Now, when people say nothing new exists, they're wrong. Streaming services have tons of new concepts and ideas. It's just that it's usually, there's just too many creators, there's too much stuff coming out these days, and the best work is still being done by a small group of people.
But you know what it is too? The kids know where it is.
Yes.
And the kids know where to find it. And that's sort of the most important thing. And I think that was true. I think that's been true all along. Like the best music in the 90s, we all knew where to go find it. We all knew like where to go see bands play when they were in town, like little venues.
Okay, so what you're talking about is a scene.
Yeah.
And
So maybe streaming is sort of making a little bit of a scene, do you think?
I will know because I think that, like you said, like the location mattered.
Right.
So when I was growing up, and this is something that's personal to me, like the scene actually followed the people that booked. So it started out at this one venue called the Katinas, and then when those people moved to another venue called Pearl Street, the whole scene moved there. So all the shows that had like all the hardcore kids,
Because it
all
was
the
the
punk
good
rock,
bookers.
it was the people that were booking
bookers
it.
had the good contacts.
And when they moved to to another place, the scene followed them there. So it needs that location for everyone to gather.
But now
in.
we don't have. I mean, now the kids are making their locations online, which is a real. It turns out that's a real thing.
I agree.
I would
that it is-
rather have there also be real locations. Like when I was, I'd go to the Chalk and I'd go to Revival and I'd go to
Trocadero?
in
Yeah, in
Philadelphia.
Philly,
Have you played there?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they're closed now.
I know.
They were that was the best.
Lamb of God did Philadelphia there. It was
I
one
used
of
to
the
see so
best
much
shows.
stuff there.
It's like in Minnesota having First Avenue and 7th Street Entry and all of those venues.
Or the TLA. Did you ever play the TLA? on South Street?
TLA is where we did our DVD.
That's
all the
sick.
main
I'm like
DVDs
gonna
and
fangirling at you now.
There's two shows that are. It was one at the TLA, and then there was one at this place in Towson, Maryland that we did.
I don't know anything about
but yes,
Maryland.
I'm very familiar with the TLA.
Yeah,
and the
so like
trucks.
that's definitely a thing, but it almost doesn't matter if we don't know who the good creators are, if the kids know who they are. And it's kind of like what happened in theater. You know, theater is all revivals and what you call like clothesline musicals, which is where you take a musical artist's catalog and you just come up with some random garbage story to go along with it so that you can put all those songs on stage.
Okay.
And maybe that's kind of what's happening to movies. Movies are just being a place for sequels and remakes, and all of the good stuff is happening somewhere else.
Well, I think a lot of it will end up being lost to AI eventually. And I'll show you why here, ladies and gentlemen. I saw this before I went live today, so you should watch this. This made me...
It's good.
That's the reason. That's the real reason
your
AI
fat
exists,
ass
is
over
to make
here.
stuff like that. Yes?
What?
That's the real reason we need AI, to make
Yes.
stuff like that.
Well,
I-
CNN said that they're going to start. They just fired like 100 people, and they're going to start moving into more AI stuff for.
Are they? I
For
saw
news,
they
yeah.
are launching like a new CNN Plus, like a new CNN like streaming thing.
Is that just so that
They
they,
have their
can
own
back
streaming app.
LGBTQ pride
I
parades all across
guess.
the country with their
Yeah.
plus content?
Well, I mean, like, they're talking about like paid content on CNN. I'm like, who's actually gonna pay for it, right? The whole
Didn't
reason.
they launch that and it completely failed?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it was like folded out when David Zaslav took over at Warner Brothers, right? Because it's a subsidiary or whatever. So, like, is the idea that there's going to be people that actually pay $10 a month for something from CNN? Because I thought the whole point was that nobody actually watched it. It was just put on in airports, right? People have it on in the background. But that's a big difference. But there's a big difference between people being willing to watch it while flipping through a television station and actually being willing to put down $10 so that they can watch, I don't know, like Don Lemon's not there anymore. Who the hell is still over there at CNN? I have no idea.
No one I know of anymore.
So we'll wait and see. All right. So over the 4th of July, already a week ago now, did you see Danny Trejo get like hit by the water balloon? Did you see that? Like on he was on a float or in a car on a
Yeah.
parade? Well, that is being investigated as a hate crime.
Oh, of course.
It's a hate crime. So if you guys haven't
Balloons are
seen,
hate crimes. That's why we didn't go after China.
you can watch this video so you can see what happened here initially. Danny's not happy. Machete's not happy.
Did he just go pick a fight and lose?
He just
Yeah.
went and picked a fight and lost. To be fair, it was someone half his age.
Still
Twice his size too.
Yes.
play stupid games.
Bro.
Talk about an overreaction.
So
A little bit?
So his claim was that somebody said the water balloon has acid in it. Can acid stay inside of a water balloon?
I don't think so.
Like do they mean the drug or like battery acid?
So here's what they had to say.
Was it a spiked water? Or?
Yeah.
How you feeling? I mean, look, man.
You know, what? Honestly, God, I am so sad. I'm so sad that I behaved the way I behaved. I'm so sad that grown men got to throw water balloons to enjoy a day. You know,
But it's fun.
I don't think I would have even got out of the car if
led-
somebody hadn't yelled, "It's acid!" You know.
He led
Oh,
correctly though.
wow.
That's what I got.
I'm sad that I behaved the way I did. That's a
That is
really
right,
that is a
yeah.
great way to step
Somebody
to
did when I
start.
You got to understand, there were like 8, 9, 10 people around this car when they threw that balloon. So somebody wasn't worried that they were going to hit anybody else. And when I got out of the car, I looked, boom, then a balloon hit me, and then I looked up and I see a guy holding on. I don't know what in the hell is wrong with you. So when he grabbed me, you know,
So in the video, I want to say, in the video, it's from behind. So he grabbed you.
Yeah.
And then you reacted.
Boom,
I got you. I got you. So
and then
if someone grabs you, that's like.
I stepped back and I fell off the curb. I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm just sad that there's still people like from the 50s and 60s that still feel the same way because no one else was targeted. You know, no one else.
So
was
you feel
targeted.
like it was because you see some Mexicans in a nice
It
car.
was targeted.
Wait a minute now. Was this in California?
Yes.
You can't throw a water balloon without hitting a Mexican in California.
Nobody else
It's-
getting hit with
I'm
balloons
from
in
there.
front of us or behind us. You know, they were just at our lowriders. Come on, you got a classic lowrider in a parade. That's the last thing you want is to get water on it.
That's right.
Or any-
That doesn't.
what? How
That
do you
doesn't
clean it?
make it a hate crime.
It's definitely not a hate crime. Like I said, he led with, I feel sad about my behavior.
Which I
So
appreciate.
Right there, I'm like, okay, man, that, I got, at the very least, you started off good.
Because he spent
and-
time in prison, so he's been through this before,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's old enough to understand the consequences of his actions and stuff like that. But we should take care to not apply terms like hate crime
Yes.
willy-nilly, as they
Absolutely.
say.
Absolutely.
And extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, unless this is like a KKK water balloon.
I reject the concept of hate crime outright.
Exactly.
personally.
Was it because it was the
I
water
agree.
balloon? Was the water balloon white? Was that why? Was it like
It's
one of those Nazi water balloons?
I thought it was yellow. So.
Okay, there you go.
know.
That's either way. I thought it was ridiculous because it is one of those things where like anybody can just slap that label on anything. I was like, so because they hit one car makes it a hate crime. That doesn't actually make any sense because if that had hit somebody in another car, does that person just not have the right to make that claim if they were another race? Right? It doesn't make any sense.
And we don't know if his car was targeted. That guy may
Yeah.
have been throwing water balloons at every car that rolled by.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. It bothered me. The idea that they like if he would have just been like, look, somebody was being a dick and I acted out and it was wrong of me, but it was also wrong of them. I'm completely fine with that. Like I don't think anything's gonna happen to him. He's Danny Trejo. I don't think the dude's gonna get booked for it. But it's like to jump and throw that label on it is one of the reasons we're in the position we are right now as a country because you're not waiting for I was talking to somebody the other day, I was like, do you remember the idea that sometimes people were just assholes? You just knew people who were he was just a dick and he was a dick to everyone and he didn't think about your immutable characteristics. He was just mean. That's a thing.
Like
Yeah.
Nelson on The Simpsons.
There you go. That's still a thing, right? That where some people are just not nice.
Right.
And that's fine. If you're going to prove otherwise, then you better have extraordinary evidence to back it up. I'll still watch Machete though. That's fine. All right, guys. Let's talk about social media a little bit. So, not that long ago, we talked about the concept of No Place, which is a social media network that's launched. Anybody here have MySpace back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
MySpace.
Oh, yeah.
I know the musician must have had
course I did.
MySpace back in the day. So No Place, it's like MySpace, and it's becoming very popular amongst Gen Z. They've got an invite-only version of this app coming out right now. No video, no photo application at all.
It's just
Text.
talking?
Yep, just talking.
I think that's great.
Yes.
Me too.
Yep. I think it should include something about HTML so that you can customize your profile more. But I do like, and also sequential timelines, which I think every social media app gets endless requests
I think,
to.
sequential timeline would be
Yeah.
amazing.
But this is like the fact that we talked about this before, but the fact that the launch of this, the beta launch of this is doing really well says that there is an interest for things like that, right? That we can go back to a time where maybe you do not have to have photo and video for everything.
Also, maybe social media platforms are generational. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
so
probably
who's
a really
on
true-
Facebook. Facebook is like boomers and grandparents and people
That's-
I went to high school with, and then Twitter is for like political people, and definitely Twitter is definitely a middle-aged sort of platform.
I saw like you and
Instagram is very millennial.
yeah, like you and Chris Burtman have like posted about like the engagement is so much higher on Twitter,
Yeah.
right? Like to me, I think one of it is like, is engagement even really your point? Like for me, when I post on Twitter, a lot of it's about engaging people, talking about movies and television like that. I have almost none of that on my Instagram because my Instagram's all skating, so they're completely separate platforms used for completely separate things.
I have a lot
but
of food on my Instagram.
I see what I mean, right? Like that's the point,
I made
right?
this pizza.
Like, look at it. It's awesome, right? So when you go to different platforms for different things, but you're probably right that there is a generational. Like, Twitter is probably more of a a topic gap.
Sure.
It's an interest gap.
Yeah,
But
and I
other
mean-
platforms definitely probably generational.
And I think that's kind of good. Like, why do you want to be on the same social media platform as your mom? You don't even want to hang out at the same place as your mom.
Hold on a second here. I was just had a meeting with my All That Remains team today before I came here, and surprisingly, I was of the opinion or I shared the opinion that you guys are expressing here, that Facebook is for boomers and blah blah blah. Your grandmother or whatever. But I mean, All That Remains is not a band that's really a boomer band. I mean, we're definitely, our fan base is millennials, probably, not really Gen Z, but millennials. And we still get the vast majority of our traffic and stuff is from Facebook, which surprised the hell out of me.
That's crazy.
So,
Well, it's a huge platform.
It is huge.
But I also think it's different for a cultural property, which should probably be on every social media platform, as opposed to like individuals chatting with their friends about, what they had for lunch.
And there is kind of the notion that, like, look, Instagram does really, really well with video and photo. Twitter does really, really well with text and discussion. And Facebook is kind of a weird blend of the two. Like that,
And you can
I
keep
never
up with like your aunt in Greece
Yeah.
or my aunt in Greece.
I never really
So,
felt like the video platform on Facebook really was all that much to die for, but it definitely does include it. So for a band that's releasing photo releases and videos and updates and stuff like that, it probably makes sense that people follow you on there. And it's also different for, like, people are going to have preferences for platform, but a band or a company should be employing as many of them as they can.
There's also the point of entry thing,
Yeah.
So it's like if you're not super social media-y, but you want to find stuff, you have to go to social media to find it. And Facebook is very accessible.
Yeah. What's the next big platform? Do we even know what the next big platform is going to be?
TikTok is
TikTok
now.
is, but I mean, isn't that getting banned? I was told that was being banned at the end of this
they
year.
were just fibbing.
Is that what's going to happen?
Well,
I've been keeping up with it.
No, the idea is that the company ByteDance has to sell it to an American company in
But I
order
thought they
for it
said they
to
didn't wanna do
stay
that.
viable in the U.S. But they're not gonna do it. But they still have a time limit. They made sure that I think it could go through the election.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We'll wait and see if people end up catching on to this stuff. Look, there's also the movement with Gen Z about getting dumb phones. That's becoming more and more common because they want to disconnect from the social media sphere. I think a lot of that has to do with, like, it's like you have two classes now. There's like influencers and everyone else. And there's more and more evidence that the vast majority of younger generations, they don't want to be doctors and they don't want to be lawyers. They want to be influencers. And to everybody else who just wants to live a normal life, maybe they don't see the need to being connected to the internet 24/7 all the time. I was telling you this week, I deleted Twitter off my phone just because I was spending too much time doom scrolling. When I saw your message last night for the show today, I had to physically go to a computer to look at that message.
That's
so
funny.
like the idea being, like, during the week I'll keep it off my phone and I may re-download it for weekends just because a lot of news passes through on the weekends and it's very hard to do this job without Twitter. It just is. Like, there's just so much stuff that doesn't catch up as fast to the news sites. Like, by the time it gets to any of these news networks, wherever you get your news from, it's already 2 days old. And you just,
for sure.
you don't have it. So
I started really looking forward to Saturdays because I tend to turn off my notifications and I just like hang out on Saturdays. And it's like, I finally realized that I need at least just a full day to decompress and stop thinking about all of the trash that's just like...
Does turning off the
flooding through.
notifications like keep you from checking it then?
Yeah,
Does it?
because I'll be like, oh, praise God, I don't need to check that.
See, I'm actually worse than that. Like,
I'll check in with my editors and writers who are working on the weekends. I'll check in, like, we have some group chats in Telegram or whatever.
I imagine, like, also just like banging on your cell phone, being like,
But he spends so much time with his family on the weekends. Like, he really
Good,
tries to,
good.
he really, he's got such a great family. So
Mine's even worse though. Like, I always have my notifications off, but I check my phone so much that it doesn't matter. Like,
I always have it silenced.
Yeah.
And so if my phone rings and I don't see it, then I don't need to answer my phone right then.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, never make noise, phone.
All right. What would you guys like to see? Cringe or cute of the day?
Cute.
Cute first. All right, we'll do cute first. The cringe of the day today is it's a test. It's a battle anyway, so you'll have to check that out. But let's do cute first. Also remember, guys, if you want to submit cute of the day, tag me and tag at popculture_show on Twitter with the hashtag PCCPets. That way I can add it to cute of the day. First things first. This is from Cookie Don 15. Says the vet said Coco is not female but male, so his name is Coco now. That can be a boy cat's name, right? I like Coco.
I mean, it's a cat. Whatever you want to call it.
I think you can name it whatever you want. Either way,
He
it's
won't
cute.
mind.
You can call it Nike for all anyone
I like
cares.
all of the cats and the dogs. I like both.
Let's do one more here. Oh, same poster. He's decided to submit another one. I like it.
Oh,
He's very sleepy.
passed out.
I was telling everyone the
Smaller
other day.
than shoes.
Yeah. And let's do one more, so if we can get some from somebody else. This is from Heather Chancellor. It says, when you're an old lady but still take your job of guarding the house seriously.
Oh.
What a sweetie.
Meg is the best girl. That's what she says. I agree.
She clearly looks like the best girl.
All right, time to look at cringe of the day. So I'm going to need you guys to tell me which of these is worse. And I'm sure you guys have all seen this one so far. So this is for the people who aren't terminally online and don't pay as close attention to politics. I need you to tell me which of these speech clips is actually the cringier one. So here's first.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
He also misgendered.
Yes. So which is worse, that or this one from the ESPYs last night?
So go ahead and enjoy women's sport like you would any other sports because they are sports. Except you, Harrison Butker. We don't need you.
Who's Harrison Butker?
He's the one. He's the Catholic kicker who gave the speech.
Like it's okay to love your family.
Yeah. That's actually worse.
I think so too. I think
way
it's
worse?
worse too.
It's so.
He was also in the audience.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then she's just a terrible human being.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, like, it's like she's angry. You know, she's an angry feminist and like mad that he had the audacity to say something Catholic. She's garbage. She's a garbage person.
For going after him for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was speaking
She's-
at a Catholic university.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
saying
he's a
Catholic stuff.
Exactly. He's a Catholic at a Catholic university saying Catholic things, and then they're just like, "Oh, we don't like you." It's like, shut up.
Kamala Harris was speaking before a black sorority, and she said black sorority things. Nobody has to hate her for that.
Also, let's be real. If there were any pro football players there's likely a lot of criminal records that are just as viable to be critiqued.
Right.
She's just disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, Joe is
disgusting.
brain dead. You can't really blame him, but she's conscious and
Yes.
aware of what she's saying.
Well, actually, the Joe's comment, in my opinion, is good because it shows that he's not fit to be the president.
yeah. So there's a plus.
Yeah.
Do you know that Harry Sisson is literally my favorite account on Twitter now? He like
What is?
It's just plain delusional.
It's not delusional. It's such
the
it's
butterflies.
acting in such bad faith that I actually love it. Like if you slap the parody label on it, it would be the greatest thing ever. But the fact that it isn't actually makes it funnier to me.
Who is it? Who's
Harry
Twitter?
Sisson. He's just this Democrat shill who's like Joe Biden is
fluffy
the
hair.
he is the sharpest president we've ever had in office. So sharp he could cut the cabinet in half if he wanted. Like it's great because it's such a lie
Such a cognitive
that it makes me
disconnection.
laugh. Yeah. There's a $20 one here from Brian Howe. Says, "Hey Phil, all that remains got me through the United States Marine Corps." Through the USMC, and my dad passing from cancer. Thank you. Hold, please. We'll come back to it. As me and Mary say, we have tonal issues on this show. Hey Phil, all that remains got me through the USMC, and my dad passing from cancer. Excited to see you guys in Clarkston.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about your father. I'm glad that All That Remains was something that you could look to and help you deal with that a little bit. My dad passed away like 25 years ago from cancer as well, so I feel your pain, and I hope you come to the show and enjoy it, man. Thank you very much for all the support. Appreciate it.
This show has tonal issues. You have no idea how many times like we'll just a crisis party ends and then we get like a cue to the day with somebody saying their pet just recently died and then we're all laughing and then I'm like, okay. All right, guys, now that we've gotten through all that, you guys can let us know down in the comments which one you thought was the cringier of the two. Personally, I agree. I think the second one was the cringier. It's just, it's also proof that women never forget anything. They don't. They will remember something that happened a year ago.
Women
10
never
years
forget anything that offends them.
Yes,
they forget
exactly.
they forget all sorts of important things.
I disagree.
What?
You
I don't know how true.
I remember all kinds of important things, but I don't remember all of the times I was slighted.
Well, then, I mean, that's actually, honestly, that's a superpower to not always remember all of that stuff, right? To be able to brush past it and get past it.
Yeah, there's no point in it.
Nope.
Yeah.
I remember both.
I try to let it go. Like, I was talking to someone recently. So back in 2021, a friend of mine, it was like just after January 6th. And mind you, this is somebody, like, I only was using Instagram at the time. I have political beliefs, but I wasn't one to share them like a ton online. I'm not an overtly political person in the public face. That's fine, I think. And he sends me this really long message about how I'm a bad person because I voted for Donald Trump. Granted, he could never have known that because I never said anything about voting for Donald Trump, but he's making that assumption there. And I was so shocked by it because this was a good friend of mine for about 20 years. And what I forgot to this day was that this was at the same time I had launched my Patreon at that time because I was not just working, but I was also creating skating content every day. And I launched a Patreon to help fund that stuff for trips and stuff like that. And he sent messages to people that signed up to my Patreon to tell them that I was an insurrectionist and that by supporting me, I was supporting a traitor to America. And I forget that sometimes. And I think that
that should not be forgotten.
Yeah.
There's been I can identify with that. There have been so many people that have been incredibly terrible towards me because I didn't. And it's not even that I've had particularly radical views, or at least not for for my entire life. Like there are some things that I think that are fairly radical now, but back back in 2015, 2014, when cancel culture was really in high gear and stuff, there were people from metal blogs that were tweeting at my label trying to get them to drop us.
Wow.
because I went on InfoWars with Milo. And this was before like things had come out where Milo was really persona non grata. He was just, at the time he was still just like kind of a trolly dude that would say, buck wild things. But because it was on InfoWars and because they were linking Alex Jones to all the stuff that Sandy Hook, he was tweeting at my label, why are you guys blah, 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 you should drop them. And it's like, that is some real garbage behavior. So like, I can totally identify with that. People that you thought were cool and that just come out of nowhere and are just absolutely atrocious,
Have they like ever tried to cancel you before? Like since then, or is that like,
I said the F word on the internet before and multiple times, and I've refused to apologize. I said the no F word, and then two of my friends
What's the no F word?
It's not the four-letter one.
It's a slur.
It's a longer one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to say it here.
The one about bundles of sticks.
Yes, a bundle of sticks.
There you go.
And I have two very good friends that had podcasts and still do it, and they brought me on essentially for me to do the mea culpa, and I was like, F you.
Oh, man.
I ain't sorry about nothing. I was like, I ain't and the reason I did that is because once you say you're sorry, which everyone knows nowadays, once you say you're sorry, then they hold it over you forever.
You're
and blah,
cucked
blah,
for
blah.
life.
So I was like, they're going to hold it over me anyways. There is no
Never
getting out of
apologize.
this. So I was like, no. And then I wrote a song called Never Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, you can never apologize.
Yeah. And there's a song on the Madness record called Never Sorry that was specifically for that.
When I had my theater company, and the women in my theater company were angry at me for having written about trans in Quillette, which I did, they said, maybe if you apologize to the community, meaning like the theater community, which was full of non-binary lesbians, which just by definition shouldn't be a thing, obviously. But they are like, you should apologize. And I said, you guys know me well enough to know that I'm never going to apologize for my work. I'm never going to apologize for my work. Apologize for stepping on your toe, but not for my work, ever. Never.
Absolutely. Once you say you're sorry, they will continue to. What you're doing is you're acknowledging that their accusation is reasonable.
And that their perspective is justified.
Give them power.
Exactly.
Yeah, it gives it power.
By saying you're sorry, you're saying, okay, you're a reasonable person, and it makes sense that you're saying this. And I reject that entirely.
I reject your entire premise.
Exactly. 100%. Never sorry.
Your whole platform is wrong.
Yep.
Well, speaking of somebody who seems to have had to apologize or at least distance herself from some work, let's talk about what's going on right now with Leticia Wright. If you don't know who Leticia Wright is, she plays Shuri in the Black Panther franchise, which means she's a Marvel actress, but she's also a film producer. And what she did is she produced a brand new movie that just came out called Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. This film was then brought to distribution by Angel Studios, who partnered with the Daily Wire to make this film a reality. And the problem is the second Daily Wire gets involved with anything in the mainstream, actors who aren't overtly political then have to start making grandiose statements so that they won't get in trouble with the rest of the people in their industry who are very intolerant towards people with opposing viewpoints. What it is she made a full statement regarding what this was. My problem with this in general is that she had to make a statement at all, right? But here's what she said. She says, and I'll just put this on here so you guys can read it. It says, to be clear, after we completed the production of this film, Angel Studios were brought on board to handle its distribution, and they later partnered with the Daily Wire. She wrote as a statement on her Instagram. That was not my decision, and I was not given an update or made aware of this decision. I am in no way aligned or affiliated with the Daily Wire. I am thankful for all who want to positively champion this film and campaign to serve children. However, I do not condone using this beautiful film for divisive political purposes.
She's the one that made it divisive. By doing that, by making that statement.
Well, and I want to read more of what because the statement was much longer, and she seemed to want to keep it focused more on the children and the theme of the movie, which was really big and important for her, which I appreciate because the movie itself is a good message, much in the way that Sound of Freedom was last year. It's not as divisive as Sound of Freedom because Sound of Freedom got connected to QAnon last year, however absurd that was. And obviously Jim Caviezel is a more polarizing figure in that industry. But this is what she said. She says, producing this film alongside Peachtree Productions to tell this incredible story of Bishop W.C. Martin, First Lady Donna Martin, and all of the incredible families of Possum Trot has been nothing less than inspiring. We have created a beautiful film that gives a voice to to vulnerable children with the hope that families across the country and world, no matter their faith, race, or diversity, would join together to help children to be moved to make a difference in any way they can. I like that. She's keeping it focused on the movie itself, which is why, and this is where she goes on, which is why it's a shame to see small pockets of discourse online take a divisive political turn. This story isn't about politics. It's about children. It's about sacrificial love for children who have experienced unthinkable horrors, and how communities and how communities at a grassroots level, like the communities of Possum Trot, can help provide safe, loving homes that they so desperately need. Any conversation that detracts from that is unnecessary and harmful. The potential for this film to positively change lives is far too important.
It sounds like a lot of the headlines about how she's distanced herself from the project are actually incorrect.
Yes. I mean, she made
saying I'm not involved in distribution and I don't care about the political ramifications of the company that does the distribution.
When me and Mary were reading through this last night, she goes, distance herself in the most vague and generic way possible, right? Like, it's going to be framed how it's going to be framed from the media. She is also particularly sensitive to this because she had strong opinions about vaccine mandates back in 2021 that got her in deep trouble with most of Hollywood, who spent a lot of the year leading up to Black Panther 2 coming out, saying that she should be ousted from the role and they should replace her. They should not put her in the lead in Black Panther and that it's disrespectful. Certainly she posted some videos that then fellow Marvel actor Don Cheadle criticized and all that stuff. The problem I have with all of this stuff is that whenever an actor takes one stand against one issue that you may agree on, everybody in the hyper-political space then believes that that person needs to become some type of culture warrior for their side of things, and they forget that people don't tend to fall strictly in one column, left or right. You tend to have a grab bag of beliefs from both sides of the aisle.
It used to be that way, but I don't think that it's that way so much anymore.
I would like to believe in a perfect world that was still a thing, right?
I think people still do actually have a grab bag of things. They just feel like they're not allowed to, so they don't speak about it very often.
Yeah, and the thing, certain affiliations mean that you have to clarify in this industry now.
One of the things that really makes that stick out to me is, so back in the 90s there, and they might still be a band, but there was a straight edge hardcore band called Earth Crisis. And they were vegan, militant straight edge, and they were militantly pro-life. And which nowadays you would never see that.
Yeah.
They were, they had very, very
But if you're
left.
vegan, it makes sense to be pro-life.
It does make sense because
and
it
anti-death penalty.
Yeah, logically it made sense. And so they had, like there's this one song, Firestorm, and if I repeat the lyrics, they're like, we can get demonetized. It's like really, really, really brutally. Like they were talking about, getting rid of people that do drugs and they call it like the filth that infested cities and stuff. And these were what you would typically think of as not progressive opinions.
Yeah.
But because it was the 90s and it wasn't so much dictated by political correctness, but it was more dictated by the logic that people would have in their own they would use logic to figure out what makes sense.
The logical conclusion.
And it does make sense if you're pro-life and against hurting animals and against doing drugs and stuff like that. All that stuff does actually make perfect sense. But in today's context, there are things that just don't make sense, and I think that's part of the reason why so many people nowadays are kind of like, why does the world seem so crazy nowadays?
Right.
So, and here's the thing. So, that was her response, and the Daily Wire did respond as well. So, Jeremy Boring made an official statement on Twitter. Here's what he said. He said, on its opening day, July 4th, Sound of Hope was the highest grossing film nationwide, second only to Disney's biggest release of the year. This movie is tracking to be huge and has potential to launch a movement to end America's foster crisis. The Daily Wire is truly honored to partner with Angel Studios on such an important project. But such is the intolerance of the modern left that instead of celebrating this accomplishment and all it might mean, one of the film's producers, Leticia Wright of Black Panther fame, used the occasion to condemn the Daily Wire's involvement in sharing this message across the country. Again, I don't know if I would quantify what she said as necessarily condemning as much as it was making a general statement that she wasn't connected with them. I don't know if I would use language that severe for that, but you can interpret that however you will. He goes on, Leticia and I probably don't share the same politics, but I believe we share a Christian faith, and more importantly, the same goal of shining a light on something we can all agree on, a community banding together to help children in need. We hope people don't allow this distraction to steal from the message from the film and the impact that it might have. Everyone should see this movie and join the fight for kids. It's too important not to. And again, yes, guys, I know I am Joe Biden when I read sometimes. That's fine. Look, I think that also is like, I don't know if anybody needed to make statements, but we live in a time now where anytime the Daily Wire gets involved with something, these actors have to make these statements. And I make the joke all the time. Anytime an actor makes something that doesn't fall rigidly in line with like hyper progressive beliefs, you have to ask them, look, you put how many years into acting? You went to acting school, you trained, you did all this stuff. Do all of them feel strongly enough about their beliefs to doom themselves to a life of making like right-wing movies? Because that's what happens if you don't condemn at a certain point. That's not to say that making those movies is important. It is, but you can't expect everyone to choose that path.
Well, that should not be,
and it shouldn't be
the decision that you have to make when you're an artist. Your decisions when you're an artist shouldn't have anything to do with the political climate. It shouldn't have anything to do with like.
It seems like every movie that's coming out lately has some kind of a big political issue behind it, or some complaint that people have that is highly politically driven. Like it's anti-trans, or it's racist, or, oh, well, now it's connected to this studio and the studio is too religious for us. Like they go so far and try so hard to find any issue about
that was intentional.
Any movie.
Like that was intentional in the arts at a certain point. It wasn't enough to be an artist. You had to become an arts activist. And if the rule was if your art didn't have activism in it, then what was the point of making it? So that whole crew of people are now the professionals making the decisions, and everything that they learned in their Ivy League,
art schools,
MFA grad programs is translating into the rest of the industry, and it's spilling out.
Yeah, and there's not. I don't like people talk about a way back. I think that this only moves one direction. I don't think that the cultural shift would happen anytime soon, especially in an industry as insular as Hollywood is. Mm-hmm. What's funny is I was reading this article about one of the Jack Quaid. I think it's Dennis's son. Mm-hmm. Let me make sure of that. And he was talking about like, look, I have no problem being called a Nepo baby.
Yeah,
it's really
Jack Quaid,
it's Jack Quaid. He says, I have no problem being called a Nepo baby. It's really hard to break in this industry. And that's the point, right? Is it's very hard to get in. And once you do, you want to do as little as possible to rock the boat because it was so difficult to get in there at all. Mm-hmm. The problem is like finding work is hard enough. Your political affiliations will limit your ability to work for certain people. Most of us, maybe not in this sphere, but most people in the real world, I think people here don't really realize how normie so many people are. They might have some beliefs on certain things, but they're not so inclined to their political beliefs that they're going to put off getting work because of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's fair to ask them to do so. At least in my personal respect, I don't. Like most people put their family first. They're going to put their ability to feed their kids, their marriage, whatever. They're going to make all of that stuff work first before they get into what they believe politically. And in that industry, if you're going to feed your kids, you're going to have to work first, which means that they're going to probably keep their mouth shut in a lot of cases. Or in this case, she spoke out in 2021 about vaccines. She immediately got her head bitten off. She's going to distance herself a little bit from something when it's not even a company that she partnered with initially. They brought in Angel Studios. It's like 6 degrees of separation. Right. She's not complaining about Angel Studios. She's complaining about Daily Wire, which was brought in by Angel Studios. I don't have a problem with her making such a benign statement when it wasn't like she was hyper condemning them. Maybe you see it differently.
I agree with you. And I think that it's unfortunate because the entire message of the movie gets lost when people want to make a movie about saving children hyper-politicized.
Yeah. I mean, they did it with Sound of Freedom, right? The idea that human trafficking would be a political issue is insane, but it is.
Right.
In this country.
Yeah.
Like it kind of, it comes down to like there was people having debates about how common it is and how often it actually happens. I'm like, it's not really a political issue. And the movie was never like a QAnon film, which is what they kept calling it. It was a generically good movie about, a government operation.
Right.
But it became
based
political.
on a true story.
Based on a true story. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and go into some super chats there. Let's go up to the top here. Let's see if we can figure out. Without Mary here, we're going to have to start up at the top, and we will try to get through all of them. If I missed your super chat, guys, I do apologize. Up top here, we got Kyle Dixon says, "Hey, Libby, my wife and I enjoyed the book The Machine Stops by E.M. Forster as per your recommendation."
Oh, I'm so glad.
A while ago. Thank you for that. Got any others?
Great. Well, E.M. Forster is great, but I think that that's his best one. I don't know if you guys read Haruki Murakami, who I think is a terrific writer. He's a Japanese writer, but the translations are really interesting, and I would start with something like Norwegian Wood. Okay. If that's something that you like.
There you go.
Yeah.
They will have to check it out and then let us know what they think of it. So Shane H. Wilder says, "Happy Friday, Brett, Sarah, Phil, and Libby. Phil, I made a short to wish you..." Oh, hold on. Let me get this off the screen here. "I made a short to wish you well on tour. It will drop tomorrow morning. I hope it gives you a laugh."
Well, thank you. I'll check it out.
You'll have to check it out. Do one more here from Andrew Jacobs. "My 2 favorite fellow Gen Xers on one show. Have a great tour, Phil. Is Mustaine still a Christian?"
Well, I don't know.
He says, "Hi, Libby. Great to see you." Hi, Brett and Mary. Well, Mary's not here. It's Sarah's. Also, so every time Phil or Libby would be on the show, we would get a comment from someone who would say, "You should have Phil and Libby on the show at the same time." We have finally made that happen.
Hi.
We have finally made that happen. We will come back after the fact for the rest of it. So let us move on then.
Generally, I agree. I'm a very big fan of Libby.
There you go.
Oh, I'm a big fan of you as well, Phil.
All right, let's talk about parenting influencers. We got into a little bit earlier about talking about old social networks like MySpace because we were talking about No Space. Excuse me. So there is a new law that has just been passed in Illinois that says parenting influencers will now have to pay their children that are in their videos 15% of the money they make on these projects. First of all, I want to ask you guys, first things first, do you think that that's like a fair number off the top of your head? Should it be more?
Should it be more? I think that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not a bad start,
But I
yeah.
definitely think that that's the right thing to do. I remember
Yes.
when I was when my son was younger, I used to always post pictures of him on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and I'd be like, "Oh, my kid is cute." And then I think he was like around 8 or something like that, and I said, "Oh, I've been posting pictures of you on social media. Is that cool, or should we not do that?" He was like, "I wish you wouldn't do that." And I was like, "Okay." And I made all the photos except for like infant pictures private. And I was like, "Okay, I won't post these ever. I'll never do that."
Well, let's. I wanted to look a little bit.
That's up to the kids. It should be up to the kids if they want to be.
Personally, I think that it's a security issue.
That's a huge deal too.
So, I mean, it's something that I thought about, and that like the guys in the band, we've talked about a little bit. Like, if you're a high profile person, it's probably not a great idea to post pictures of your children, because essentially that's a vector of attack. It's like if you have a kid and someone's looking to do you harm, the first thing they're going to do is be like, well, they have family, and where are their family, and can I access their family?
Can I hurt their family
Exactly.
or make them freaked out?
Exactly.
So here's
just to scare the family will
Yeah.
get people to react.
So here's a little bit more on the law itself, which I had to go look into a little bit further. It says, under the law, if a child appears in at least 30% of a parent or caregiver's social media content over a 30-day period, and the number of views received per video met online's platform meets the threshold for compensation, the minor must receive monetary compensation. Parents are required to set aside these funds in a trust in the minor's name, accessible when the minor turns 18. In addition, parents must maintain records of all content created, compensation received, and funds deposited into the trust account, providing these records to the minor regularly. If a parent fails to compensate the minor appropriately, the minor can seek legal recourse. That's like a lot of record keeping for something that used to be something that was like, oh, maybe I'll make some videos about my family. And now it's like you got to have the separate file box with all of you got to log information and data. Like a lot of times, like once or twice a month, I do like a roundup where I look at all the videos that we're doing. I look at view counts and, what we're averaging per video, because it helps me figure out, like, we've adjusted on multiple occasions, like how many videos we'll release a week in a time period, or how many we'll put out a day, what helps content grow, what helps content grow in other ways. But that's like my job, right? That's kind of part of the work. If it's just something your family's doing and monetizing that way, it's a completely different thing if the parents now have to start keeping separate records. And I don't know if I actually buy that many of these families are going to keep these strict records, or if the kids are even going to know that a law like this exists.
Right. It's like when the FBI investigates themselves.
Yes. We have investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also-
I mean, now that it's like a career path for people, I think it's great. And I think it's actually a little bit late to the game that they are starting to put in laws that will protect these kids. But I think it's a great idea. 30% is a good start, like I said, but it seems like it's going to have to be a case-by-case basis, because all of these influencer families go about filming, and like their content varies on how much, some people, they barely have their kids in it, but for some people their kids are like the center of their content.
It's what's going to happen is like the parents are going to start like having the kids audition and be like, Billy isn't as engaging as Johnny. We're going to put Billy in the content, and then Billy's going to get a big payday when he turns 18, and Johnny's going to be left with no college fund. That's the problem. Also, look, like you said, influencer couples or influencer families are already very popular. This is only going to become more common as more tech literate generations have kids, right?
And I wonder
Child
if
labor thing.
Yeah, and I wonder if it'll affect their psyche the same way that Hollywood children are affected. Like, are they going to grow up to be train wrecks? Are they going to grow up to be like have attention like disorders, or whatever? Like, how will this affect their minds later on into adulthood?
The hope would be there's no Johnny studio producer there left alone with little Billy. That's the hope,
That's
right?
the hope,
Is that
But there were articles I was reading maybe a couple of months ago that were kids who had been in their parents' content, saying that it was really gross and that they didn't like it, that they didn't actually get to be parented, that they were just constantly being used for content.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
That
Stage
anything
parents.
anything they did that was supposed to be fun was actually just photo opportunities, and they really feel like they've missed out on a childhood. So maybe parents will think twice about subjecting their entire kid's childhood to
yeah.
like this gross thing.
I feel like kind of going back to what we talked about with like the new app that Gen Z is really into, it seems like millennials are almost ruining like social media for the next generation.
How so?
Like they really are just taking it too far. Because imagine being the child of a mom influencer or like a family of content creators, and your entire childhood is a staged event. You can't just be a kid and not worry about what you guys look like all the time. That sounds like, that sounds
like
awful.
When you go home, you should be able to let your guard down and not have to worry that whatever you're feeling in that moment is going to be used for content.
And then instead your parents smash an egg on your forehead and laugh and
Or
share
hit
it
you with
with the
cheese.
world. How awful.
Or worse was the one the other week where they fake hit the kid's head against the door, and then they start making faces at the baby to get it to cry. Did you see that one?
How awful.
So what it is like they walk.
I don't like this kind of content.
They
so I
hold
don't
their
see a lot of
baby
it.
and they walk by like a door frame and they pretend to hit it on the door and then just act like they hit the kid like by accident. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, and the baby starts crying
Of course
it's taking
baby starts crying.
It's taking cues from its parents.
When your kid is 2 and falls down, you say things like, "Oh, you're okay. Don't worry. Get on up."
Yep. And people
That
see
way
this
they
stuff.
don't get upset.
And then there's like a large debate that ends up happening. They're like, is this abusive? I'm like, the kid did not get hurt, but it certainly is emotionally manipulative.
Yes, that's what I'd call
And that's
that
on
abusive.
top of the fact that they're posting it online, which is a whole nother discussion. That's my biggest complaint with most of it is like when you crack the egg on the kid's head, if you did that once by yourself and that's a story you tell at some family get together, that's, I guess, amusing. But when you're filming it to make a video of it, that turns it into something entirely different.
I like the kids who really fight back in
Yeah.
those moments and they smash the parents with eggs. That would be my kid.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "The hell, Mom."
Yes, the kid is not going to be hurt from you cracking an egg over his head. He might be hurt from having to see videos of him having an
For
egg cracked over his head for decades.
And they might lose a lot of respect for their parents when they see those as well. I honestly think people should start getting prosecuted for emotional abuse when they do stuff like that. Like,
How do you think they would do that? Like, would the kid have to come forward and be like,
I mean, they're posting it online. Like, they're posting video evidence of them emotionally manipulating and abusing their child to get the
Emotional
child
abuse
to cry.
is very real.
It is real. Yeah, that's literally what it is. You know.
Do you think that a law like this will make some of these parents think twice about including if for no other reason?
I would hope so.
If for no other reason than they just don't want to deal with the hassle of it. They'll think twice. The sad thing is like you shouldn't need the state to regulate whether you're going to treat your kid like a human being. But sometimes maybe you have to play to their self-interest, meaning that they just don't want to go through the hassle of it, and that might force them to not put their kids in the content.
There's a $20 one right there.
Did we miss one?
Alfred La Rock. Libby, you should offer to pay your son $6,500 a year to use his image in marketing. Then he can legally start Roth IRA right now in time to buy a great price after the crash. Tax-free growth better than bankrupt.
He's got his own. My mom set him up already.
There's another $20 one too.
Oh,
Augusto Pinochet's Killdozer.
There we go.
That's a good username.
Phil, you're my favorite member of the Beanie Gang. You're like the cool older brother I always wanted, and you will be missed. Also, what's the left lane for again? Phil?
Crime.
It's for crime.
The left lane is for passing. If you are going 65, you are wrong. Break the law or get over.
Every day, so when we come to the castle, there's like the lane bottlenecks down and it goes from 65 to 55 to 45.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, and nobody really stays at the speed that it's supposed to there. But the problem is that then the people who need to get out off because it's an uncontrolled four-way intersection with no stoplights, and then nobody's actually driving the 45.
Barely even a stop sign.
So like nobody's actually driving the 45 mile an hour speed limit, so you have to gun it right out of the stop because you have to come to a stop there to cross over, and everybody's just tailing behind you really fast because nobody goes 45 there. Nobody.
Well, the roads around here are super fun to drive on.
Yeah.
I just learned today that the speed limit on that road was 45.
Going into the I
had no idea.
Yeah. So, and you brought up an interesting part earlier, which is that tech laws notoriously take a long time to catch up if they ever do. So something like this becoming the law of the land nationwide, like I would rather see something like this go into effect in LA
Oh, yeah.
Like in the places where a lot of these things are taking place, right?
Yeah, because a lot of times people don't change until it hurts their pockets.
Yeah.
Right? My only concern, like, of it not working would be that I think a lot of these influencers don't actually make that much money. They're just doing it for attention and fame.
Yeah.
So if you're
maybe
really not
stop.
making that much and it's like, pennies on the dollar, like, are you really gonna... Is that really going to deter people from exploiting their kids for content?
I was like, what actually, like in the legal definition, what qualifies them as an influencer? I guess just monetizable content.
Right.
Like was it like over a certain follower count? Like what qualifies as an influencer? There's another 20.
Third super chat, catch TF up from VWit.
The F up, yeah. And the funny thing is that 20 that you caught up there, I think was from earlier, and I missed that one. So that was that's on me. Look, guys, we're doing our best here today. Well, the hope is that this law does some good for the kids and that the parents either think twice about putting their kids in the content, which I think a lot of people would prefer, or if the kids are able to make some money and maybe go to college off their parents' insane desire to, be a social media influencer, maybe everyone benefits in some way, shape, or form. All right, let's go back up and check out more super chats up there. And again, guys, bear with us while we get through this. We are picking it up as we go here. Shane H. Wilder says, it's official. Everyone but Libby is a heathen for not getting confirmed. Lol, JK.
I'm an agnostic too now. So.
Sorry, man. Like, we're just a constant disappointment here. Bender McSimpson says, boom! Boom. Boom. Pat the Plumber says, Frito Scoops are the ish. I like Fritos.
I never had Frito Scoops. What's that?
It's just like...
Is it like a spoon of Fritos?
It's like a scoop so that it's made for dipping. They're just bigger.
Okay.
It's very American.
What do you dip Fritos in? What is it, salsa?
So I think probably like cheese dip and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good right now. All right, let's do
I like the little swooshy Fritos.
Let's make sure I got all the 20s. Yep, I think we got through all those. Tacty Platty says, I'm excited for the Air Force One sequel with Ford. Yes! Okay, so if you guys didn't see the trailer for the new Captain America Brave New World movie, you do have President Thunderbolt Ross being played by Harrison Ford. Now they obviously had to recast because the previous actor had passed away. And yeah, it makes me think of Air Force One. Get off my plane. Maybe I'll watch that this weekend. Maybe that's the old movie. I tried to watch.
Cage, right?
No, Air Force One was Harrison Ford.
Okay.
You're thinking of Con Air.
Yes.
Con Air was. Fielder's choice. Pick both. Watch both of those this weekend.
There's going to be a Brave New World movie with Harrison Ford.
No, that's just the running. It's not based on the book. It's Captain America: Brave New World. It's just the running title for the film. It was originally called Captain America: New World Order, and they changed it.
Why?
Really?
I don't know.
Maybe too on the nose.
I mean, they're both kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
But it is a very for as bad as the trailer was for Gladiator. The Captain America Brave New World trailer was really, really good. It did really, really well with the middle. First of all, it was under 2 minutes, which is always a leg up for everyone, is to not make the trailers like 10 minutes long where you feel like you've seen the whole movie in just a couple of minutes. So I do recommend going and checking that out. I wrote like a pretty long tweet about how a movie like that is a very layered discussion, and there's a lot in that trailer to like. Well, there's also a lot to criticize, which I think is important. If you're going to convince people that not everything is somebody saying that it's racist or this movie sucks for this reason or that, I can have good reasons. I can have reasons that I like a movie for and reasons that I don't, and not everything boils down to you're a Nazi or you're a racist. So check it out. And we'll do one more from Tacty Platty here. No, this is from Pop Culture Junkie. He says, we need Gladiator 2 as much as Harrison Ford needs to learn the accordion. All right, we will move on then, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk to you guys about the American dream. So there was this new article that came out that says Gen Z and millennials are way more skeptical of the American dream than any previous generation. First thing I want to ask, does that surprise anybody here? No?
No, because kids aren't taught why America is special.
No, they're not anymore.
America is a special country. It is unique in the world. It is a special place, and it is better than every other country on Earth. And I say this without any hesitation. This is an absolute fact.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you're right. There is no push for that anymore. The idea of American exceptionalism is essentially gone.
Yep.
This would have
It's
been pushed. This would have been pushed back in the day by Hollywood or the music industry. That you were born to a special place. You are blessed to have been born here.
Yes.
And that is no longer. They now want you to believe that to be born. Did you see that video the other day of the woman who said that she was trafficked to America because she was adopted at the age of 2 from another country? Did you see that?
No, I didn't hear about that. What was it?
This woman says she was adopted here in America, like at the age of 2 from another country, and she said she was trafficked to America, and then repeats,
Oh, yeah, I did
"I'm not
see that.
American. I am not American. I am not
I
American."
remember that.
That is what they want you to feel now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there has been dodgy stuff going on with adoptions. Like, there were a huge number of Chinese adoptions for a while, and a lot of that, like, you had to go to China with a bunch of cash in order to adopt your child.
Yeah.
Like, there has been definitely dodgy stuff, but you know, that aside, the United States is a great country, and we haven't been teaching that the U.S. is a great country in
Not
at
just a
least
great-
like
not just a great
couple
country, the best.
generations. We haven't
The
been teaching
best.
that in a couple generations.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in high school and it started being like America is bad, and I was like, really? I don't think that's right.
Even in 2010.
And that was in the 90s.
Even in 2010, like the first time I
80s,
went
90s,
I went overseas, and I kind of got that first indication of like everyone from another country just assumed I would be fat because I was American, and I would hear from Americans how they were embarrassed to be from here, and I would it never made any sense to me to have been. And remember, these are kids that grew up in the same socioeconomic status that I was, which was middle class, and I'm like, what on earth do you have to complain about?
Almost the whole world agrees with me. They
Except
don't
for
admit
Americans,
it.
yeah.
What? Pardon me?
Except for Americans.
Well, yeah, but they won't admit it, but they do, and you can tell by how many people are trying to get to the United States. If the United States was not absolutely superior, then people would not be doing everything they possibly could to get to the United States.
I think a lot of it comes back to a sense of optimism. I watch a lot of old movies and television, and a lot of it was even people who were not the most successful had a sense of optimism towards achieving what would be considered the American dream, meaning the wife, the kids, the two, the white picket fence. All of these things were something that were seen as something to aspire to, but we've spent such a long time in this country tearing down all of the facets that make that a reality, right? We've kind of criminalized the idea of the traditional family.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Black Lives Matter did that.
Yeah. And the idea of ambition is now criminalized in a lot of ways because it's white supremacist. It's also hyper-capitalist, which is a problem. And I see that in the study. I think it said 53% of Americans still believe in the American dream. That actually seemed honestly higher than what I imagined the number would be, but that's still sad to think that 53% of the people born to this country don't have faith that they can make something happen. I also look at the word dream and wonder if people just thought it was, the American default outcome. And that's not what it was. You still had to work hard to get what you wanted to. But I did also see another survey that said that the number one issue coming up in this election will be price of living.
Sure.
Cost of living is so high right now, right?
Quality of life is a huge deal, and that comes along with cost of living.
So they said 64% of upper income people believe in it, 39% of lower income believe in it. I actually think it's more important for people in the lower income bracket to believe in it because that speaks to ambition to get ahead and find more for yourself. And it doesn't have to come down to wealth. It can be as simple as getting married, having kids, and building a fulfilling life with another person and starting a family. It doesn't necessarily, it seems like it always comes back to, this could just be my observation here. I feel like millennials in particular and Gen Z, they draw it back to home ownership. That's the big complaint, is that they're never going to own a home. Right. So a big part of that is like if people
and dating is an ish show.
Yeah. But if people are priced out of the housing market, if they're never going to be able to own a home of their own, they have a very hard time believing that anything else beyond that is even possible.
Well, also there's so much that is, speaking to the American dream, the concept of owning a home, there's a lot stacked against people owning homes other than just economic factors.
And the middle class is shrinking dramatically.
There's that, but you also have huge mega corporations buying up all the land and housing and then renting it back to you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get into a housing market when you have mega corporations that can just buy the thing out from under you. I bought a home a couple of years ago, and I definitely had to leave my home. I had to leave like where I grew up and the region that I was in order to buy that home. I couldn't afford anything where my cousins live or where my family lives, you know, or where I grew up or in New York or anything. I couldn't afford anything. So I think that also people have to be willing to look outside of their comfort zones and look outside of what their expectations are for what their lives are going to be like.
Yeah, like I think
that's okay.
I always equate it back to the idea of perspective, because to me, the big thing has always been gratitude. Now I'm somebody that's been through a lot of ups and downs, addiction issues. My life hit rock bottom at one point. So to me, I thought I'd be dead by this age. So anything past that is gravy. Right? Like I'm happy with everything that I've been able to achieve since, and I don't feel any sort of sense of entitlement because I've had to work my way back and try to earn everything that I've had since then. So the idea that I don't own a home doesn't bother me in the same way. Now, granted, not everybody has made those mistakes, and a lot of people feel they've done everything right. They went to college, they did everything they were supposed to, and they've been priced out of an economy that's no longer supporting them. But there is a modern victim complex that kills the ability to feel gratitude for what you do have. And I do feel that gratitude for what you have and where you live, like Phil was saying earlier, should play a huge role in what you consider the American dream.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Or like when you wake up and you really don't want to work and you're very grouchy, and then you realize like, oh wait, I have a job and I can support myself. That's actually kind of great.
I was just telling Mary on Monday, like when we were coming back for the show on Monday, so we'd been off for the holidays, right? We had 2 days off the week before, so we had like a long weekend, and I had this generic sense of minor dread coming back to work, and I had to remind
case of the Mondays,
and I had to remind myself that I love my job.
Right.
Like I don't actually dislike going to work, but I'm kind of programmed from years of working a regular job to be kind of bummed about having to go back to work. That's gratitude, is reminding myself I get to go back to work.
Yeah, I was so grouchy yesterday, and I woke up this morning and I was like, that was dumb that you were so grouchy yesterday. You had no reason to be. You know,
how do we
still
right? I'm just thinking like, how have we gotten to this point where it is so hard for people to be grateful for what they have?
Because life is so easy.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, if doing the very, very simple basic things you need to survive took all day long, you wouldn't feel this entitlement to time off. The idea that, I mean, until the Industrial Revolution, which we're talking about, 500,000 years of human history where human beings were basically human, maybe 300,000 or whatever. Up until 150 years ago, life was short, brutal, and hard. The weather would kill you. People would die of exposure all the time. You would die from not getting enough
More
food.
people die of cold now too than heat.
So it was absolutely, like, it was a literal struggle to survive. So this idea that we should have leisure time is entirely new.
And there's
It's
a sense of
whole
entitlement
innovation.
when people talk about like, you shouldn't have to worry about where your food comes from or where you're going to sleep at night. I'm like,
BS.
the world doesn't owe you shit.
Exactly.
Like nobody owes you anything. And I think the moment that you start appreciating that and understanding that you are owed nothing in the world, it actually makes it easier to deal with the hardship.
When you expect things to be difficult, then you're not surprised and you're not upset when they're difficult, which is one of the things that the Stoics that used to say all the time, like, be thankful for the things that you do have and don't want more than you need,
Right.
And if you can look at your life and say, wow, I do have time off and I get to do, maybe it's, I like my job, right? Or never mind, just like, do I love my job? Like, I know I'm extremely fortunate. Like, I am one of the most fortunate human beings that have ever existed in all of human history, like literally. And like, so to think that there are people that are just like, oh, I'm not happy about the job that I have. You have a job. You have a roof over your head. You can easily get food. You don't have to make your clothes, right? You don't have to
Wash them by hand.
Exactly. You don't have to.
That sucks with like the washboard.
It's hard. Like
It's hard.
You don't have to, you don't have to convince the horse that it's time to get out and help you like till the fields, or the bull or whatever. It's like these are things that were the norm for most of human history. The fact that we have the ability now to do things like throw your clothes in the washing machine, have a dryer that can dry them. The labor-saving devices that the Industrial Revolution came up with, or that came with the Industrial Revolution, they also came with a sense of entitlement
Vacuums,
that is
you don't have to beat your rugs.
that is ruined, absolutely ruined human beings' ability to be grateful.
But along with that is so you have that on one side, and then you have the intentional destruction from inside the nation and our value system itself.
We have a couple $20 ones.
Oh, go ahead for both of them.
I think I may have to scroll back up, but Rhaegar Targaryen says, Phil is correct. When I was underway in the aughts, OIF/OEF, whether we hit the port in Australia, Singapore, Japan, Bahrain, Hong Kong, Thailand, even Victoria, everyone spoke of America with awe and reverence.
It's Operation Enduring Freedom, right?
Yeah. OIF is Operation Iraqi Freedom, and but people like America is the best country ever. It's the best place you could possibly live. That's part of the reason why I'm sure that I'm one of the most fortunate human beings in all of history. Like, I get to be in a band and talk about, pop culture and politics, and people listen, and that's what I do for work. Like, the odds of that are just astronomical.
My dad is one of 8 from Iran, and he made it here and then brought 2 of his brothers over. And the fact that I was so close to growing up in the Islamic Republic of Iran is something that I have had gratitude for my entire life. Yeah. Like, even like on my worst days, I know I have it better than 99% of the world out there, and people have completely lost that. And I think social media actually has influenced that, because we tend to be grass is greener type people.
That's what I'm talking about.
We see people's icebergs and think, how come he got that and I don't have that? It's like, well, you didn't see all the work that went into that. You just see the polished end product that people post on the internet.
When I talk about deleting Twitter, that's exactly the reason why, right? It's because I end up ruining it for myself by reading a bunch of threads from people who have very pointed complaints about things that just end up making me mad, because I don't understand why they don't get the same type of gratitude that I do. But that doesn't, first of all, it doesn't benefit me to argue with them, because all that's doing is destroying my peace, and it doesn't help in any way, shape, or form. So I would like to know, like, how do you reinstill those values in the next generation, especially when social media does reward the complaining over the rest of it? How do we instill those values in the next generation?
Well, it's definitely something that parents need to do.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's something that fathers need to do. I think that a major part of the problems that we see in the United States are, first of all, the fact that fathers are not the norm, or that there are so many children raised without fathers. And on top of that, the way that society treats men, I think, is awful. And I think that if we could fix those two things, and I think that starts with men themselves, not with like complaining about, things outwardly. Focus on yourself first. And if men do that, then that'll go a long way to making the conditions better for men.
Men struggle with that, though, a lot. Like, isn't there a stigma of like a man being in touch with not necessarily his feelings, but his own thoughts, and kind of being more self-aware? It's almost like
I think that
there's kind of a barrier.
Dissipated.
I
hope so. Like, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that might be a deterrent.
I think that there is some truth to it, especially when you talk about, I think most people will think of it like being in touch with their own feelings, but more so than being in touch with their own feelings, just being confident that being a man is okay. Like, the idea that the way that society treats men nowadays is, especially from women, that you hear, at least on the internet, because they it gets shock value, but this is what's piped into young men's ears, is if you're a man, you're inherently bad. Masculinity at all is toxic. Any form of masculinity is toxic. Anytime a woman is sad or upset or whatever, it's your fault. It's a man's fault, and you're bad for it. So a woman sad, man bad is the little phrase they use. The idea that men should have have a strong sense of themselves is shunned. The idea, one of the things that came along with feminism was this implication that is wrong, that if as women and the things that women are capable of doing became more, that had to be a corresponding shrinking of men, and that's not true at all.
Yeah, that was.
Not at all.
I'm from the generation right where that was the most proliferated, and it wasn't even necessarily just that. It was like they told women that you can do whatever you want, you can be anything, but they didn't really tell men how they're supposed to react. There was no attention paid to what that meant for men, as if pretending that completely raising someone else is going to tear down another. That wasn't necessarily the implication, but there was no thought paid to what it meant, given that our gender dynamics are supposed to be complementary.
Structure
Our gender dynamics are supposed to be complementary, and we have now changed that dynamic and expected nothing to change otherwise.
When women are told that they don't need a man, which is absolutely a lie, like the idea that women don't need men, that is a farce, because in the middle of the winter, when the power goes out, you're not going to call Jennifer to go climb the pole to fix the electrical thing. It's going to be Joe, Bob, and Tyrone. They're going to be out there freezing their balls off, making sure that this gets fixed for all of their families.
With zero gratitude.
Not even
zero gratitude. And the thing is that you're right, zero gratitude, but not only zero gratitude, you're a piece of crap for it. Right? You have to go out there and fix it and bust your ass, and you might die doing it, and you're a piece of shit.
We got two 20s there.
It's
One
the way
from,
that it is.
That's
one
terrible.
from St. Miles says, Brett is so right about X. Well, thank you. Yes, I'm usually right. That's correct. And a $50 one here from V. Witt says, Phil, yes.
Cheers.
You are correct. It's all feminism until there's a big bug in the house that needs to be killed, or a jar that needs to be opened.
Women are all feminists until they can't get into the jar.
I made a tweet like I said, Olivia just asked me to open a pickle jar. I've been waiting for this day my entire life. Yes. All right, let's go to Super Chats. Actually, before we do, I had a video that correlated to this. I thought you guys might find funny. You'll see it on this one over here. I just saw this yesterday. It said this woman quits Amazon on her second day as a delivery driver. It just made me laugh.
Oh my God, y'all. I don't know who told me. I don't know what in my mind thought I was going to be able to be a motherfucking Amazon delivery driver. Bitch, I just had a whole mental breakdown. Girl, didn't even make one trip, bitch. Didn't even make one trip. Girl. And I literally just quit on the spot.
The women can do anything.
Drove that big ass truck back around and like... Yeah, baby, I'm sorry, but I quit. This is just not for me, bitch. Jeff Bezos, all I gotta say...
Did she call him Jeff Benzos?
Yeah.
He's Jeff Benzodiazepine.
But what is it that she did? So she didn't make any deliveries?
She didn't. She just turned the truck around and came home.
She didn't realize that she had to work at her job.
All the way fucked up. Bitch, you only paying people $18.75 to drive a big ass truck with 1,000 packages on there in 100-degree heat, and it's like, oh, okay, you get 3 hours overtime pay. Bitch, you are crazy. Baby, for all the girlies that's on here, that's Amazon delivery drivers, y'all are some strong bitches, and I salute y'all, but bitch, I can't do it.
It would be a lot to like carry all the packages.
I'm sure it's hard at first, but they stuck to it also.
But yeah, I mean,
Didn't
carrying
quit on day
packages
2.
is heavy. Clearly, that's not the job for her.
All right, let's finish up the super chats and we'll hang out till 5.
Cool.
Although I hope she finds another job.
Let's hope she finds another job. There was a whole discussion in the thread underneath there about like the pay being low and stuff like that. Jeff Bezos is one of those people where, look, I'm very much a fan of capitalism, and I'm very much a fan of being able to be rewarded for your work. And out here specifically, when I see people who live in very remote areas that would have had a hard time getting access to package delivery, suddenly being able to get 2-day delivery anytime they want for anything.
It's cool.
It's cool. And I was like, I think you should be rewarded for like that. Not to mention all of the jobs created, all of the infrastructure built and things like that. I think that that's a perspective thing. I look at that as something that's positive for society. But if you're not one of those people, you're going to only see it as some form of societal exploitation. But again, that's your perspective of the world, and everyone's allowed that. But I think that not having the gratitude and whatnot, that's going to make life a lot harder for you. So, all right, let us pick back up the super chats up here. This one's from Tacty Platty. It says, Phil, have a great time on tour. Dunk on the commies.
I intend to at every opportunity that I'm presented with.
All right. V Wit says, Phil, like your stuff, and I'm not even a metalhead.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Thank you. That's louder without the headphones on.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Is it? Oh wow. Yeah, like fills the whole room.
doesn't it? Yeah. So what happens is when we're done for the day, I have to remove all the chats from the log because it's all done on an Excel sheet, and I have to transfer it over to another file and then clear the log. And what it does is it resets and sets off another crisis meter. And sometimes I'll forget to turn the volume down, and I'll be in the middle of editing and jump out of my seat because it's just loud as hell. All right, Greg Duvier says Gladiator 2 is going to be one of those movies that would be better if it was not tied to the Gladiator franchise. Yes. Why not just call it like Coliseum?
Oh, that's good.
There you go. Just call it Coliseum.
I like it. I would watch Coliseum
Yeah, I don't hate
more
that.
than Gladiator.
There you go. Joe T says, millennial hot take. Welcome to the Dollhouse is better than Napoleon Dynamite. Libby and Phil, back me up. I love Napoleon Dynamite.
I
never
like Welcome
seen-
to the Dollhouse
I've
quite a
never
bit.
seen-
I was not as big a fan of Napoleon Dynamite as I was Welcome
It
to
was
the Dollhouse.
very of its time.
I've never heard
I
of
mean,
it.
maybe it was, female protagonist or whatever. I'm pretty sure it was because I just remember that girl.
Napoleon Dynamite was definitely a product of its time. Like you watch it now.
So many good
Yes.
movies really are. Like look at The Breakfast Club.
But
That
I'm
was
saying, like, if
definitely-
you watch it now, I don't think it's going to hit the same way that it hit when you first watched it.
I watched it when it came out.
No, I'm saying if you watch Napoleon Dynamite
Oh,
now,
yeah.
you won't get it unless you were
Unless you were
lived
around
through
at that time.
God. Have you ever seen the
understand
picture
that.
comparison that shows Napoleon and Taylor Swift and they look the same?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Here we go. Greg Duvier says, Phil, the first time I hear of All That Reminds, I'm assuming he means first I heard of All That
We
Remains,
will accept the typos.
was on Guitar Hero 3, the song 6. It was one of 5 songs I would play. Want to guitar with more bands like yours. Being a fan led me to Timcast IRL.
Huge
cool.
appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was Guitar Hero 2, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. One of the things that was one of the big things in our career, and I'm super grateful for people like you that spent hours and hours and hours trying to master it on Expert, because it was the second hardest song on the game when it was on Expert. So it worked out wonderfully. Kids were just sitting there, just drilling it into their head, trying to make sure they could master it. So
Red Snow says, can we get Phil to scream praise be to Space King?
no,
No?
praise be to Space King. No,
Worth a try. V Wit says Brett's just a skater boy. I don't listen to Avril Lavigne.
That song came on my shuffle today, like as I was pulling in. Made me think
Good
of you.
tune.
No Diggity 24/7 says agree Libby and Burnt. See, they'll call me anything but my name. Silenced 24/7, notifications off, and I use focus mode. Hi Sarah and farewell Phil. Happy Friday everyone.
Cheers.
You too.
I don't even know what focused mode is. Is that an iPhone
It's
thing?
when you turn it, you make your phone stop doing
like
notifications.
That's
not
how I do
disturb.
the thing where I turn off notifications.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Havoc Axe says Daily Wire sadly responded poorly. Ignore
I
her.
agree. Yeah.
You didn't like Jeremy Boring's response?
I didn't like it. No, I thought it was definitely a bit harumphy,
Harumph.
Like harumph.
I feel like people have said that about him before.
Yeah, it seemed like he was just way too prepared to be offended
Yeah.
and didn't act like I saw the stories. I got, emails from Angel Studios like, "Oh, are you going to cover this? Like, here's information." I get press releases from all kinds of places. And and my first inclination, I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, but Leticia Wright, I really like her. That sucks that she's, trying to distance herself from this movie just because Daily Wire is distributing it." And then I gave I passed on the information to another writer and I was like, check this out. So I haven't seen our story yet, but then seeing her statement just now, I was like, you know what? That's really that's fine. I have no issue with her
It was a pretty
statement.
magnanimous
Her
statement.
statement is, you guys are making a political deal out of the distributor. I'm not planning to make a political deal out of the distributor. I'm really into the film.
Yeah, she did. She like did something a lot of people could learn from, which is stay out of an issue that is not hers and has nothing to do with her.
Also, you can put a lot of the onus on the media outlets that label their headlines a specific way, distanced herself.
Between her and Danny Trejo, I thought we had pretty decent celeb responses.
There we go. Things are looking up, ladies and gentlemen. Soreko Production says, I do not condone using this beautiful film for divisive political purposes, she says, as she uses the film for divisive political purposes. I didn't take it that way. I really didn't. I just saw it more as like what would the appropriate response be otherwise? Like, if you could, let me know, like, if you were in her position, you know, you're writing your response, what would have been the better response?
Right.
Because
she couldn't have not responded.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have dropped it.
V. Witt says, Phil has stoicism locked down.
I don't know about that, but it's something that I try to practice, but it's way harder than it seems.
Yes, it is.
Especially when you're driving and people are not doing the right thing in the left lane.
That's drives me nuts too. Like
you're like you get in the left lane, you're like Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius.
Just like this is the way. I have no power to change these people. I have no ability to affect them. They're in their car and I'm in mine. I can just let this go. I do not need to hold on to this. I don't have to make this a thing. This doesn't have to be an issue. And I'm just doing this over and over my head as my knuckles are just like.
But that's what it is, right? It's the thousands of pounds of metal in the window between you that makes people so easy to be enraged because they're not actually right next to them. Have you ever seen the videos where like somebody's yelling at them and they roll the window down, they stop yelling because suddenly like now you're face to face.
Like in Office Space when Michael Bolton gets real quiet singing his rap song when Black
right at the beginning of the movie.
I love that.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut about that stuff.
All right,
I do that, but with gratitude. I'm just constantly like, just be grateful. Stop being super pissed. Just be grateful.
I mean, we did live through a generation of movies where we're like, woe is me. I've got a 401k and a great job. My life is so boring.
I don't know what happened. Like how that stuff was like produced and why people feel that way, because it is, I mean, look, most human beings in human history have had a worse life than you if you're in the United States.
If TPS reports are all you have to complain about, is your life really that bad?
There are many ways that you could have been born that caused you physical pain for your entire life.
Sure, like that weird skin disease.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of things.
But I listen. I got to stick up for Office Space, and I got to stick up for hating your office job. Yeah. Office jobs can be really hateable because I don't know if people are aware of this now because everyone works online and there's no such thing as a receptionist. But it used to be that there were all these jobs in an office that were just stupid jobs. They were so dumb. Like, you could be the copy guy. You literally were the person who had to go make copies. And you'd have to make everybody's copies, or you're just there answering the phone. And you're like, why can't my boss just answer the phone? Like, he's just sitting there going for lunch. You know, what's going on? Like, sure, bosses are busy, whatever. But, like, there were a series of years where I had these office jobs and I just wanted to die. I just wanted.
This is where you employ that gratitude we were talking about. You had a job.
Yes.
You had a job.
And I kept doing that.
There you go.
And I still would some days be like, if anyone needs me, I'm going to be under my desk.
Did you take a copy machine out into a field and destroy it?
No, but I did use the copy machine in my office to photocopy masses and masses and hundreds of pages of scripts and bring them to rehearsals.
That's how you get back at them. Paper, use up their paper.
I totally used up the paper and the toner.
Here's from an account called Forceful Hemorrhoid. That's the name. I think this may be my first time catching the show live and not listening on Spotify at work. Hey, Brett, Libby, and Sarah, and Phil. Love the music, Phil.
Hi, thank you very much.
Well, with a name like Forceful Hemorrhoid, that's thank you. We appreciate it. It's awesome. Omega Red Fan says, I remember on MySpace, most people had Panic at the Disco as their profile song. Well, I never did, but, you know.
I didn't, but I definitely listened to Panic at the Disco when they came out. It was, I think that was I Write Sins, Not Tragedies. Great song.
All right, where did we leave off here? It's just scroll all the way down, and we are catching back up. Greg Duvier says, actually I can make this full screen now that we're doing this to make this easier. All right. You want to read this one?
Sure.
Sarah, from Greg Dubier.
Phil, what do you want to do when someone in the left lane is not committing a crime? Or what do you do?
Commit an entire different variety of crimes.
All right, Shane H. Wilder. If you have never hit triple digits, have you really ever driven?
Ever made it in the triple digits?
Of course.
Did you see Danica Patrick talking to Tucker Carlson about how she drives her Lamborghini around?
No, but I want to know.
It was actually really fun, and he was like, "Do you speed?" And oh yeah. Do you get tickets? Yeah, for sure.
I like her.
Speed limits, really just suggestions.
They really are. Look, any law that comes with a fine is literally legal for rich people.
Legal for a price.
Yep.
Yep.
Like there are times when I would be driving, and my ex-wife was notorious for this before she had the Easy Pass thing. If she didn't have cash and she was driving from Virginia up to my place in New England, 95, she wouldn't stop at a single toll.
No way.
No.
Oh my gosh.
She'd end up spending $100 extra because of they just charge you whatever the maximum was, and it was about $100 or whatever extra. And she's just like, I don't care, whatever.
Well, that's what like when you go to the airport and you got to go through you have to go through the Easy Pass. Like I just I missed one the last time we went, and the ticket, it was only like $7. It was the price of whatever it was. I'm like, why would I stop for this when I can just pay it in the mail a month later?
My Easy Pass stopped working. They stopped debiting money from my account. And then I kept having to go. My son had a bunch of medical appointments, and he's fine. But I kept having to go drive through a ton of tolls. And every time I'd get up to the toll, and I'd be like, "Damn it, I forgot to fix my Easy Pass." And I just
how do they fix it? Do you have to get a new one? Do you have to
Oh, I literally had to call them, and they were like, "Yeah, we revoked your Easy Pass."
Why?
Because they couldn't debit money from my account, because they tried to debit money from my account when my credit card was maxed out. And that, and I didn't realize it. And then I thought, oh, well, I paid my credit card. They'll just debit it again.
Yeah.
But no, they never did. They never came back around.
Yeah, you could just set up the thing on your phone to avoid tolls, depending on where you're going.
Yeah, but then it takes way longer.
Depends on depending on where you're going.
Anyway, now I have a new stupid Easy Pass.
All right, you got that one, Latveria 1024?
Sure. I'm telling you this Phil guy is going places.
Cheers.
This next time you hear, he'll be opening for Pita Death.
Pita Death.
Pita Death.
This time next year, sorry. That actually reminds me, I watched a Powerpuff Girls episode recently where, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Powerpuff Girls, but one of the main evil characters is a monkey. And he caught on to the fact that if he would literally go, "Oh, I'm so oppressed," and this group of hippie PETA activists would come and surround him so that he can continue committing his crime without risk of being stopped by the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, it's like trans violence.
Yeah.
Perfect. No diggity 24/7.
Don't do your best. Do better. Lower bar.
There's the easiest way for me to disregard any opinion you have is if you finish it with "do better." I mean, it's gonna want to do worse if you tell me to do better.
Yeah, for real.
Seriously. The what was the other one I saw today? There was a really funny tweet where this. I'll see if I can find it. Let's go on. You want to read the next one?
Yeah, sure. Tacti Platty says, "Brett, that intersection you mentioned sucks. It's on my commute. Also, my wife tried the Sheetz tacos yesterday and she loves them. Reminds her of
tacos?
home."
Oh yeah, nobody likes them but me. Apparently, me and his wife. But here's the thing:
Are they good? What do you mean?
That would be a stretch.
Okay.
Filling, yes. Good.
So I should just go keep making my own.
It would be better to just make your own at home.
Have really good
Here's the thing though. I the other day saw an ad, a banner ad for Sheetz Tacos on a billboard in Frederick, and I'm like, of all the items for you to shill, why would you be shilling your shit ass mediocre tacos that only I like? Felt like the banner was made just for me. It's amazing.
Tacos are amazing.
I love tacos.
Love tacos. Shane H. Wilder says, Frito scoops with 7-layer dip or guac. Cheese or salsa is for tortilla chips. The best Frito is covered in chili and a shredded Mexican cheese blend.
That
sounds really good.
Sounds delicious.
That sounds great.
Very good right now.
Yeah.
Also, the 7-layer dip.
Yep.
Oh, those are amazing.
Yeah.
So good. V. Witt says, Mr. Bertneymeister, the 12th. Why no Deadpool talk?
We haven't really talked much about. We're gonna review Deadpool, but the thing is look, I still love talking about the superhero movies and all that stuff. And when I do like other appearances on other shows, a lot of times we'll get into that, but it's not really a huge focus of most of the people here. So we try to find topics that everyone can have opinions on. And if you're talking about something that requires a lot of knowledge from before or seeing previous movies and stuff like that, and if nobody's up to date on all that stuff or cares about it, then it just ends up with me ranting for 7 minutes. Nobody wants that. So usually if you want to see that type of talk, I talk more about movies and box office stuff on my Twitter when I get around to it. Shadow Zero.
My thoughts on America is simple. America is great. Most politicians are awful.
Yes.
That's really fair.
Very straightforward.
It's kind of like the meme. It's like me on the 4th of July, like me every day of the year other than the 4th of July. Like this country's run by satanic, evil people. Me on the 4th of July, and you're just draped in the American flag. And yeah, my love of this country has nothing to do with the shitty politicians that infest it.
100%.
Pop culture junkie.
Someone's childhood, a continuous stage event. There's a great movie that's there somewhere. Comedy, tragedy.
Well, I mean, everybody would just end up being in, what's it called with Jim Carrey? The Truman Show.
I only just watched that
Me
the
too.
other day.
Yeah.
And I
not
never
the other
seen
day,
it
but
before.
recently.
Yeah, my son liked it, and he had watched it with my mom, and he was like, he suggested we watch it. And
They
so
could
we
do a
sat down
sequel to
watch
that.
it.
I would actually watch a sequel to that movie.
You know, that movie, it was great. It was very engaging and interesting. And of course, Jim Carrey is one of the most terrific actors. He's so good.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end of the movie and he walks out the exit door, and it's really such a profound moment because you don't have any idea what happens to him after that because he's no longer televised. But if they were to do, let's say that movie were made now, which
it's almost too prescient to do
it shouldn't
now.
be.
It's almost too prescient to do
you
now.
would know what happens because he would be on everybody's social media feeds. Everyone would be like, "Oh, there he is. There's Truman," and you'd just see him through everybody's cell phone videos.
Yeah, that's very.
And
very
I thought, like,
interesting. Truman
how
in
interesting
2024.
that film is. Yeah, but you could do a movie that's not the Truman Show, but that is a kid's life only told through their parents' social media.
Yeah.
And you'd end up with like such. Once the kid finally was able to like take the reins of their own social media and like have their own perspective, if you really just twisted and made them the opposite of who their parents thought they were, that would be really fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's like, well, now I'm just gonna go into it, but if it's like a kid and the parents are like, this is the trans journey of the child, then the child's 16 and he's like, I'm just a man, that's fine, you know, or whatever.
I mean, there's no studio on green Earth that would green light that project, but it would be interesting to see.
We need more. We need like adventurous counterculture studios who are willing to make films that are not Hollywood narrative.
And the Truman Show was made at a time where they were a lot more willing to, experiment with avant-garde themes for films of that size.
Right, like remember Being John Malkovich?
Yeah.
That was very avant-garde.
A lot, like Life Aquatic, and there's a lot of movies that came out.
I miss those Wes Anderson movies.
There's a lot of movies that came out at that time that were like that. That nowadays, if those get made, I mean, I don't see those movies going to theaters and doing super well. People would expect them to go straight to streaming.
What's Wes Anderson doing now?
It's a good.
He did Asteroid City.
Yes,
that
he did.
was okay.
Yeah, I actually just watched that over the weekend. I liked the first half. By the second half, I was kind of like losing interest a little bit.
I
But
feel that way too.
the cinematography, of course, of Wes Anderson is always
The colors
beautiful.
are so great, and the lighting.
Yeah. All right. So Ethan Miller, Phil, it doesn't matter what you are. The mouse is over the next word.
No, I thought there was Shane H. Wilder.
Oh, sorry. Did I? Okay. Shane H. Wilder. America is the best, even when things are going wrong. It always has a way of correcting itself. Put in the effort if you want the reward. Simple as.
Not a hard concept to understand. Put in the effort, and here's the thing: put in the effort, but don't expect the reward because that's not always what's going to happen. Right? Like most people don't realize that when somebody hits it big, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity for one person, and that you can't expect that just because somebody else put in an equal amount of work to you and hit it big. A lot of times it's luck or the period of time in which they hit it big, right? They had the right idea at the right time with the right personality. A lot of things have to come together, and a lot of that isn't tangible. You don't know why. A lot of the influencers you love you don't know why people like them. Like maybe in the political space you can quantify more. They're well spoken. They have a certain stage presence that fits with that realm. But when it comes to like streamers or stuff like that, sometimes it's that, but a lot of times there's just a magnetic charisma about there's a vibe about certain people that they have, and they don't know where it comes from. It's innate to who they are. They wouldn't be able to turn it off if they wanted to.
In a different life, these people are cult leaders.
Yes, there you go. Perfect. All right. Now we're down to
Ethan Miller. All right. Phil, it doesn't matter what you're told. It's about what you believe and what those beliefs have you do. Take responsibility for yourself, please.
I mean, I'm not sure if that is directed at me. I'm fairly responsible for myself. I mean,
okay, yeah, maybe he's just saying generally to the general public, take responsibility of yourself. Agree.
Personal responsibility is the name of the game. Like I call it take radical responsibility for your own actions.
Well, that's what Jocko talks about. It's extreme responsibility. Like everything is your fault.
Yes.
And the reason is because you, even if the thing that happened that you're upset about or that is causing you a problem, even if that wasn't your fault, you being in the situation where that could happen is your fault. You made the decisions that
what did I do that got us to that point? That is my
–
approach to everything. Like I'm very rarely at least I'll have critiques of things outside of my control, like things we review, things we talk about. I'm not involved in those. Anything that goes wrong or is involved in my actual life, my number one critique is what did I do that got us here? Somebody else might have done something. That doesn't pertain to me. What matters is what I did in that situation. Say something bad happens. What did I do to get us out of it? Did I not do anything? If I didn't, then what right do I have to complain about it? Right? There's a lot of it. And again, that goes back to gratitude and being able to take responsibility for your own actions. And if you can, you will be happier for it.
Right. And that level of self-reflection is only going to help you in the long run.
It's kind of like what I'm saying. Like I said, like when you went through rehab and you got sober and all these things, do you really have the right to complain about the way things are right now? No, you did plenty to get yourself into this situation. And even like I said earlier, somebody who's done everything right, they went to college, they did all this stuff, it still behooves you to look at what you could have done elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care like where someone is in their life, as long as they can admit either the reason why I'm here is my fault completely, or if they say, oh no, that I'm a victim and it's because of this person and that person, like I don't care what position you're in, I'm gonna go with the person who can take accountability for where they are.
Another thing that does is that lends itself to a proactive mindset. So instead of being like everything is happening to me and I can't do anything about it, it gives you it puts your mindset into I have the ability to affect the world and I have the ability to affect my life. I'm here because I made these decisions. It's a proactive mindset that gives you the perspective that allows you to say, I can do something about this, as opposed to this has happened to me. I couldn't stop it. There's nothing that I could have done. Woe is me. The world is raining on me, and it's blah blah blah. Like that doesn't help you at all. A proactive mindset does.
For instance,
empowering.
I could complain that there's only 423 likes on this live stream, or I could ask everyone in the chat right now to please go ahead and hit the like button and hopefully help that number grow.
Subtle.
For instance. Red Snow.
Can we get a praise be to Space King in the chat?
They already have, but I can type that.
All right, Brian Howe says, communism is a death cult.
Well, it is, yeah, for sure.
I like the James Lindsay. I
like it, Paul Pot.
More than just the talk about death cult is when James Lindsay talks about degrowth.
Yeah, I like degrowth is a death cult.
That is a death cult.
It is 100%, and it's a significant portion of the left. People may not realize it, but it's the impulses that lead to a degrowth mindset. They're very, very common on the left.
I like that one the other day. It says like, what if you didn't eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Think of how much you could help climate change if you just didn't eat. Shane H. Wilder.
Also, it isn't just gratitude; it's also patience.
Patience is. I struggle with that one.
Me too.
I struggle with patience. I also struggle with sitting still, but that's connected to that. Where did we just
Potatoes
pass
for
it there?
Shames.
Yep.
Happy National Day of Brett. Happy Wednesday, Libby. Can we get a let's go, Brandon? Hi, Sarah. Hi, Phil. Let's go.
They also like to gaslight on days of the week, names, and various other things. I don't know if Day of Brett is a thing, but if it is, that's awesome. It may not be today, but I'm going to have to look that one up. Greg Dubier.
Phil, thanks for the compliment, thinking I could play guitar on expert mode. Medium was the best I could do on that game.
Cheers. You're welcome.
All right, Red Snow, Phil, praise Space King or come back to Ram's Head.
Oh, Ram's Head Live. I love Ram's Head. Ram's Head, it's this venue in Baltimore. It's awesome. I love it. I'm sure we'll be back soon.
Otis Crinkle, which is a fantastic name.
Otis Crinkle. Happy Friday, y'all. Have fun and be safe on tour, Phil. Everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Everyone do their best.
Phil, go on FB Marketplace, type in men's custom leather jacket. It's in your size. If you want it, it's yours for free.
I don't have do you have to have a Facebook account for that?
You do. That's why I
do.
reactivated my Facebook, was for Marketplace. You have to have an account.
I didn't even mention it earlier. I deleted my Facebook like in 2021. Is the greatest decision I ever made.
I got rid of my personal Facebook, or the public figure one that I have. I still have one because it's linked to the band, but I turned it all as off as I can without actually getting rid of it, because if I got rid of it, it would have got rid of the band's Facebook page. So,
and there's two more there.
All right, from Ethan Miller. Let's see. It's in response to women being told stuff.
Oh,
What is?
So Ethan Miller earlier said, where was it? I was just looking at. Doesn't matter what you are told. It's about what you believe and what those beliefs have you do. Take responsibility for yourself, please. So he's talking about the women. How did you guys feel about the video of the women dancing at work?
What women did dancing at work? I didn't see that.
Did you see that, Phil?
it was as cringy as it gets.
Okay, so I saw some people talking about it's these women, and if somebody could find it and send it to me right now, I could show it again. But the point was, I saw people saying like, "Why do you care? Like, why do you?" It's like it's not cringy. Just let people do what they want to do. And I said, here's the thing. That's fine. But cringe is cringe. Yeah. And cringe is not, it doesn't have a universal definition. Everybody has a different definition of cringe. But if the general consensus from the public is that it is, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. It's not about them liking it or not. People are allowed to like whatever they want. Certainly, I love to find cringe of men, women, and everything in between. I got no gender specifications when it comes to cringe. Embrace the cringe. That's one thing Gen Z is doing. Gen Z is learning that you can't outrun the cringe. You must just embrace and become the cringe.
Or just tell your mother she's cringe, which I hear so much.
There you go. And one last one from Incandescent, spelled as if they were in like a 90s new metal band.
Love you guys in the show. I would donate more, but I ain't got Shane H. Wilder's money.
It's not about that, man. It's about showing up to watch, and we appreciate that very much, man. So thank you so much for that, and thank you all so much for super chatting today. Actually, I want to check right before we go. What did we get to? See, a bunch of people hit the like button because I took radical responsibility for the lack of knowledge of whether they had hit it or not. I mentioned it, and people didn't. See, good things happen to those who take responsibility for their own actions. Before we go, would you guys hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already, please and thank you. And Libby, thank you so much.
Thanks. Can I shout out
right
some
now?
Stuff?
Yep.
So I'm going to shout out some stuff. I'm going to shout out The Post Millennial. You can check us out at thepostmillennial.com. I'm going to shout out Human Events, which is at humanevents.com. And also, I have a newsletter now, apparently. And it's sort of, a lot of them are automated. This one's not automated. I select the stories myself, and I write a little thing up every day about it, and you can check it out at thepostmillennial.com/Libby if you want to sign up.
Perfect. Sarah.
Thanks, guys. Be sure to follow Cast Brew Coffee on X. We are at Cast Brew Coffee. On Instagram, you can find us at castbrew_coffee. If you want to follow me on X, I'm at Lady Sells Coffee. Definitely check out our Instagram. I just made my first meme ever, and it is posted.
Oh, perfect.
What's your Instagram?
It's @brew_coffee.
All right. Phil, I want to say thank you again because you have been here just about every week for, what is it, like over a year now? Yeah. So I want to say thank you for being on this show with us and joining us every week. And I want you to shout everything out.
I appreciate it. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can catch us very soon on the Destroy All Enemies tour with Megadeth and Mudvayne. It starts August 2nd, goes until September 29th. You can check out our new video. The song is called Let You Go. It's available on Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, Deezer, YouTube, the internet. Also, next week, keep your eyes out. There is a song that will be released that I am fortunate enough to be a feature on. I can't tell you who it is or what it is, but it is something that is a little different than the metalcore that you are used to hearing from All That Remains and myself. And don't forget, the left lane is for crying.
Perfect. Guys, Mary will be back on Monday. Stay tuned. She's at Catholic Con or whatever it's called. I have no idea. But she will be back on Monday. So come back on Monday for that. If you guys would like to follow me, Instagram and Twix, @BrettDasovic on both of those platforms. I have been limiting my Twitter time lately. So that has been both good for me, but find me on there. This show is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would prefer to listen rather than watch this show. And if you want to follow the show on social media, we are on Twix @popculture_show, Facebook and not TikTok because we are banned on TikTok @popculturecrisis, and on Instagram @popculturecrisisPod. Guys, we will be back with another episode on Monday. We will
I love that I got you calling it Twix.
Let's see you then, guys. Bye.